The leader of the Booner path. I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the fuck up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juices pumping, boys.
Welcome. I can't cue it like Woodward. I just can't. But we will play it in a second. Welcome to Crunch Time Sports. I just realized this now. Jeff, Booner, Lukas, Gentry. It's Victory Monday. Detroit Lions delivered an ass whooping.
Oh, baby.
To the Dallas Cowboys. We'll break it all down today. I can't wait for it. We got Booner and the Kool-Aid.
Hey,
by the way,
the Kool-Aid, hold on.
It's some real American beer, boom.
Hey, give me some beer on a Victory Monday, huh, boys? Let's go, baby. Hey, Jerry Jones, happy birthday. This beer's for you, Jerry. Cheers, brother. A victory beer, Victory Monday with some Victory Kool-Aid. How about this? Hold on. Can I do a double fist here? Can we do both?
Oh, that's going to taste terrible. That has got to taste terrible, bro.
Hey, the Detroit Lions are the best team in football, baby. We're here.
Booner,
Super Bowl.
Booner,
no,
calm down for 2 seconds. Oh, you're doing it again. You fucking sicko. Dude.
I love real American beer, Klotzy. I don't know what you're talking about. Best beer in the world.
I'm not denying that you don't love American beer. Real American beer. I love it. It's hard not everybody loves
Victory Monday. No negativity. I don't care how they both taste together. They taste like victory. That's what they taste like,
That's
Klotzy.
okay. That's a very good adjective to use there.
Victory.
Well, there will be a little bit of negativity, but it's because of Aidan. All right,
and still a great day though. Victory Monday.
Still a great day. Still a great day to be a Lions fan, and we will be talking about the injury to Aidan Hutchinson, and we're going to have a medical professional join the show and help us break it down. Dr. Jesse Morse. He does great work, and he's in sports medicine. He'll join at 8:15 to break it down for us. But I just got an announcement right now. I got it sent to me by Mike. Shout out to him. Tom Pelissero put out a tweet, and it's another. It is another injury update regarding another Detroit Lion. Okay, and this Lion was hurt during the game, Kyle Pecco, and here's an update to how he's doing. Tom Pelissero put it out. Aidan Hutchinson wasn't the only injury for the Lions defense on Sunday. Initial imaging confirmed veteran defensive tackle Kyle Pecco suffered a pectoral tear, and he's likely undergoing season-ending surgery.
All right.
He is out, but you know what? Here's the positive, boys. All right. Lions are 4-1. They're winning football games, and they are dominating teams. They dominated the Dallas Cowboys. They dominated the Seahawks offensively. And this is a Super Bowl caliber roster. Now, the Aidan stuff we will get to, but despite that, this is a very good team. The way they played offensively, obviously best offense in the National Football League. We'll get to our top 10 Tuesday tomorrow, or lately it's been top 10 Toxic Tuesday. We'll get to it tomorrow. But this team is special. This is a damn good team. On the road, what they did in Jerry's world to the Dallas Cowboys, offensively, I mean, you're throwing it's laterals to hook and ladders to Penei Sewell, back shoulder fades to the big fella Taylor Decker in the red zone. I mean, you're getting disrespectful. This is like Madden. You're having fun. You're up multiple scores. The Dallas Cowboys didn't even score a damn touchdown. 3 field goals. Hell of a win by the Lions.
A lot of losers over there.
Hey, we
talk about losers.
All training camp Lions need that wide receiver 5 or 6. They even put Dan Skipper, said, we'll roll a skip if we really need to out there. But no, that was a great game. Obviously, Hutch injury, that's a brutal. We'll get into that more later. But the way that the defense played, even after Aidan Hutchinson went out, I think a guy that really played well, and that we'll talk about it later on in the show too, is Josh Pascal. I think from quarter 1 to 4, probably the best game he's ever played. So if he keeps it up, that secondary, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, even Terrion and Carlton played hell of a game. So that defense looked great. And you even said it, Jeff. Offensively, they got whatever they wanted. They had more scoring drives than the Dallas Cowboys had points. So that was just the best game. Last 2 weeks, Boone. Best games we've seen out of the Lions.
I talked to Jeff today. there's something, and you know what? I spoke with a couple people about this today. There's this thing like with the Aidan Hutchinson injury, and you guys know if there's anyone in this world or in this industry that loves Aidan Hutchinson more than anyone, it's probably me. I was the first one 8 months ago to say Aidan Hutchinson is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. He was on track to. He was a massive favorite to. He was going to. He should be Defensive Player of the Year, even for what he did over the 5-game stretch that he played in. But what the Detroit Lions have done the last 2 weeks, it felt very deflating what happened with Aidan Hutchinson in the third quarter yesterday, and it overlooked a little bit of what happened on the field with this football team and what's happening right now. Because I'll tell you what, and no one wants to hear it, and this is what people were saying all summer long, and through the first 3 weeks, everyone was backtracking. All those national media people who started to backtrack, all of the Detroit Lions SOL fans who started coming out of the woodworks again after week 2 and excuse me. Hold on. Some real American beer.
Hey,
After week 2, after week 3, they can't say anything anymore. The Hutch injury yesterday, it sucked. It was so bad. It was brutal, deflating. But I love Hutch. But I love this Lions team, guys. And this Lions team currently right now is the best team in all of football. Even if I know the Hutch injury, you're like, that's the best defensive player in the NFL. Yes, he is. They're going to find a way. With Dan Campbell at the helm, with what AG did yesterday, I have all the faith in the world. You have literally the best offense in football. Imagine, guys, if this offense does what they did the last 2 weeks, the rest of the season. They'll be one of the best offenses of all time. That's a fact. Statistical fact. They will be one of the best offenses of all time. And if you have that, you put together a top 15 defense, even without Aidan Hutchinson, you're winning a Super Bowl, and you're coming back with the ring in February. And that's why I love this team. This is one of the best teams that we'll ever have in Detroit. Hey, Lions fans should be pumped up. I know that the injury sucks. What would Aidan Hutchinson want the fans to do in the city of Detroit to do? He would want you to turn the corner and say, all right, Minnesota, we're here. With or without Aidan Hutchinson, we're mopping you with the floor tonight. And that's exactly what they're going to do on Sunday. This is a football team, the Booner path, the Super Bowl path, Detroit Lions, Aidan Hutchinson, Jared Goff, the fellas, Real American Beer, the Kool-Aid. We are going all season long for a Super Bowl, boys. I'm pumped up today. I'm pumped up. I'm tired, and you guys are around me all the time. I'm tired of the negativity because of the Hutch stuff. If Hutchinson walked in right now, you look at me and Booner, don't ever be negative again. We're going to win a Super Bowl with or without me. So there should be no negative talk. Now we will have conversations about what AG or what Brad Holmes and AG and them should do with the defense. Yeah. But outside of that, we can have those conversations. No negativity. I will not take negativity for this season going forward. We need to find Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell said it today. We will find a way. We have to do with what we have to win with what we have. And if we get someone, we do. Now I want all positive vibes. I don't care what Doc has to say. You hear me?
Okay, hold on.
You hear me? Everyone calm down. We're going to win a Super Bowl February 9th, 2025 in New Orleans.
I mean, I love it. I do. I love it. I'll try to stand pat with the no negativity promise. I don't know. I'm gonna try.
I'll call you out
the season.
I'm good at that.
All right, yeah, that's fair. But they're a damn good team. Best team in football right now. The way they're playing on both sides, man. AG, even after Aidan went down, the defense, I know it was kind of written at that point because Dak was just dropping back and passing. But still, you saw a lot of positive results from this defense and the secondary. Like the secondary is very good. We'll get into that more later. But there's no denying I'm with you. I don't want to give out too much, but at this point, that's the best damn team in football. I mean, I can't really argue anything else. I
do think like what we saw on Sunday afternoon. And Klotz wants to say some negativity over there. That man.
I was
he's mocking my Chiefs. He's mocking my. Actually, you as well. Yeah, us. To be honest.
Yeah, me too. All right, you go ahead and mock us over there. No, okay. But I'll say this. I'll say this though. I just think like what we saw yesterday from the Detroit Lions that was the best football the best football game overall that you've ever seen in the Dan Campbell era over the last 4 seasons. And like to do it on the road in Dallas, and I know the Dallas team was beat up a little bit. The one thing I love to see on social media and stuff is, the Dallas Cowboys were missing everyone on defense, 6 starters on defense. Okay, how many guys on offense were they missing? Because they scored 0 touchdowns. And offensively, like even if you're missing guys offensively, in the NFL, you probably shouldn't give up 50 points almost. Like that's not a thing. Like Bren Johnson right now is in his bag. I can't wait to talk about what Ben's doing, what Jared Goff's doing, J-Mo, like the running backs, like everything is adding up and kind of coming together in sync right now. And you're starting to see, again, national media take hold of this whole Lions thing again. I wouldn't be shocked, and I don't know when they have to release it or if it can happen midweek. Maybe it already has to happen, actually. I know starting week 5 or week 6, the NFL can change the Sunday night football game. They can do like 3 or 4 times, I think, in the span of like
next week.
Yeah, this week coming up. So like the Lions could have got flex. I don't know when. Like I feel like you would have had to known by like yesterday or maybe
I don't
tomorrow,
because they would do it like like the same week. Like I forget because the Lions got a couple games flex last season. Some of them would be like 2-3 days prior.
Yeah,
I still think they got time.
I would look up
real quick.
This game this week is going to it's huge. I mean, it's unfortunate with the injuries, but it doesn't change the fact that they got to go win on Sunday. And they're going to beat a very good team. Like that's what they're expected to do. I mean, Aidan moved the line, but they're still this offense is healthy. And Tom gave a lot of love. And I want to get more into Tom's comments later, but just the offense, they can beat you in so many different ways. I mean, it does not. The way Dave Montgomery was running the football, that man, he like you could tell from last year to this year, he lost weight. He looks a lot more shiftier. Like he looks, he's not only breaking tackles, but he's making guys miss like consistently. It's unbelievable. Like, and so, I mean, the way they were running the football, Jared has been dialed the last 2 weeks, absolutely dialed. And this offensive line being healthy and protecting them and the way they're running the football, this offense is the way they're playing right now. Like, it's going to be a hell of a test for the Vikings. I mean, we bring up the whole Aidan thing. The Vikings got to prepare for that offense. Like, I don't care if it's on the road or at home, man. Like, that's Brian Flores has his hands full. So it's going to be a good test for them as well. I see people giving love to Tim Patrick as well.
Tim P, man.
TP17
Timmy P got a little loose. He opened the game up with a huge play. Huge play. And I asked Shift God, he said, Unc Patrick, feed Unc more.
Feed Unc more. Dude, he just adds another piece to this offense. It's unbelievable. Dude, they're so good. One thing I love about this Lions, you've seen, like, you remember when they started 1-6 and everyone's out there done, season's over, hang it up, fire Dan Campbell, this, that, all of that. Jeff, you might have been on the show at one point where maybe, I'm not saying you, but maybe some people shout out Adam. I don't know.
It was ugly, yeah.
There were people who were like, hey, get this man out of town. Not you, but Dan Campbell. So like there's like these, like that was happening. But one thing that I've noticed with Dan and his regime year after year after year, whether they win 3 games or win 8 or 9 or whatever it is, 12, is they get better throughout the season. And like as they're starting to get the roster starting to improve, as these guys are starting getting older and becoming vets and learning more, like getting better throughout the season is just at a different level. So like to start this year, it was like, hey, you're a top 5 team, but you're just not playing at your level. And now it's like week after week after week, improving. And now you're in week 5 and you're the best football team in the NFL. And the scary thing is, and what I love about like the staff and the players is they're going to only get better from now. Like D-Mott came out on the press conference post-game yesterday and was like, he literally word for word, he was like, the funny thing is we made a lot of mistakes and we have so much to improve on. And he was like, that's the funny thing. We just won by 40, and we all are like sitting here in the locker room like, dude, there are so many things we can get better. And that's why I like love how these guys go about their business, because they have the roster now and the players. And think about what they're going to be like in week 17 or in the playoffs. Like this Lions team, as crazy as it sounds, like they could become unstoppable. Even with the Hutch injury, like you're sitting there and you're like, Terrion and Carlton are only going to get better. The safeties are going to get better. The Anzo and Jack's only going to get better. DJ Reader, Aleem, you're going to find edge rushers to be able to come in and get better. And the offense is the best in the end. Like that's only going to get better. It's just like this team has zero ceiling because Dan's always pushing them to get better. and seeing what they did the last 2 weeks as the best team in football and being like, all right, dude, how much better can this team get? A lot. And they is there a team in football right now? I know they're not even favored versus the Vikings. The Vikings don't want to see the Lions right now the way they're playing. Like, they do not. And I don't know if there's a team in football that's going to be able to go head to head with the Lions and be like, yeah, we're gonna beat you by 20. Like, no, this is a scary football team. When week 17 in the playoffs come around, this team could be unstoppable the way they just keep getting better.
Yeah, I don't know how at this point it's going to be tough to beat this team. I mean, offensively, defenses, yes, but especially for offenses, this defense, not having Hutchin, again, we'll get to it more at 8:30, but this secondary, at least at safety, they have the best safety duo in the National Football League. Like 3 picks combined, 4 turnovers. Those guys are, and they had like the Shaq and Kobe thing trending where it's like, which one's Shaq, which one's Kobe, and Brian.
Did you see the comment?
You can be Kobe. I'll be Shaq.
I love that.
It's like, well, Shaq won all the MVPs. I'm just saying in the finals. So I just adding that in. But those guys are a problem. I mean, Dak, they couldn't run the ball, but even when it was time to throw it, I mean, he didn't have room for error. Yeah, I mean, he didn't have room for error. And it's unfortunate that Carlton Davis went out the way he was playing too.
Man. Mm-hmm. I hope he's good to go next week because he with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, you're sitting there and you're like, all right, no, like you can't have an injury at the corner position. Like Ennis is going to have to step up. You move a Meek over probably to an outside and maybe if he's out. See, that's the problem with Iffy, man. Yeah, we don't hear his name for weeks. He's sitting on IR right now because if you get an in, that was why it was so good to have the depth in the secondary, dude. Like Carlton, maybe he has a concussion. You move Brian Branch to nickel, and now you throw Iffy in there. Now you're sitting in there. Hey, you're still stacked. Like you're stacked.
I know you left with a concussion, but I don't think there's a way that Carlton Davis doesn't play this Sunday. Like, I don't think it's a severe concussion. Like, I think it was more so he got kicked in the eye by a cleat. Couldn't see, and I'm sure
did not look good.
Like, it didn't look good, but it didn't look like anything that was major. Like, Brian Branch would have came back, and his concussion looked much worse, but he was out with the illness. So I think that Carlton Davis, he'll be playing, especially when he knows he's got Justin Jefferson coming. Like, that's a matchup that he's probably like, yeah, I want to see what I can really do. This is why this team traded for me. So I think he's going to be out there.
And Ryan in the chat said he's cleared. So maybe there was something we missed today. Everyone's saying he's fine. All right, we're good. Carlton Davis, baby.
That's good. That is.
I don't know. Maybe I missed something.
No, that's great news. I mean, they need him this week, given who they'll be facing. But he played well. I mean, he was even Taron Arnold played well. Them two, the guys on the back end. You had Anzalone. I know I had Anzalone on there. You didn't hear his name too often, but it was all for the right reasons. He was out there making some plays too. They could not run the ball. Like, I don't think they had a single guy. I think, Rico Dowdle, I think, hit it late, but they were like, they had no one running for more than 10 yards at one point. Yeah. Like, they just could not. The run game was non-existent for the Cowboys. So Lions defense did a really good job there. While we're waiting on Doc to join, we might as well dive into it a little bit here and get more into just the Aidan stuff because.
By the way, though, not the Doc Macaroon, right?
No, Dr. Jesse Morse. Yeah, he's
Jesse Morse.
He's the sports medicine, the medical professional. I wanted just to get his thoughts on Aidan's injury, but before he joins,
respectfully, I should take the glasses off for the doc. Man.
Yeah, well,
getting professional.
Yeah, he's getting.
I'm stepping into the doctor's office, man. I'm taking.
Not John Macaroon, Doc. Sorry, Dr. Morse. But real quick on Aidan Hutchinson. When his injury occurred, man, it could not have injuries happen in the National Football League. Okay, they do. It's the reality. It's the unfortunate part of the game. Dan Campbell knows this, and it doesn't matter who it was. It doesn't matter who it happened to. I mean, it could have happened to a guy who doesn't play. It barely plays. It would have been just as unfortunate. But really, now that it's the human being and the player of Aidan, it does mean more. Like, you never want to see anyone break their tibia or fracture their tibia and their fibula. And be out potentially 4 to 6 months at least. Like, it is a terrible injury, especially when you take into account the season that Aidan's having. I mean, he's having a Defensive Player of the Year season. So it's unfortunate. Like, I hate to even have to talk about it today, but the reality is the league moves fast, and luckily there was an update we got from Aidan Hutchinson's camp that he had a successful surgery and, he's on the road to recovery. So that is great news. They're going to put a rod in his leg. So he'll have a bionic leg now when he comes back, be even stronger, even better.
I'm interested to ask the doc that, like, does that actually do you become like, who's that one character growing up you used to watch, Inspector Gadget? Does he become like that? Like,
that's not.
Like, I was thinking, in fact, I did not expect Inspector Gadget there. To be honest with you, that's fine. You know what? He'll be better. We'll get a medical professional on that. But the reality is, guys, Brad's got to make phone calls. Adam Schefter went on Pat McAfee today and spoke about how what his take on the Lions will be and how he doesn't think they'll mortgage their future, but they'll obviously have to go find someone. I mean, you have Davenport out for the season. John Kaminsky was already out. Aidan Hutchin's out. That's 3 edges, guys that have play for you, and 2 guys that start for you. Now you're looking at Isaac Ukwu, who's an undrafted free agent. So now they're kind of in a predicament now where, you got to find a solution here. And I think they're going to have to go elsewhere. Dan Campbell spoke about it today, and we'll get to that clip in a little bit here. Or maybe I can just play it, honestly, now while we have it. I'll play this clip of Dan Campbell speaking about the defensive line room and his kind of confidence. And then I'm going to get your guys' thoughts on what the Lions should do kind of moving forward. But here is Dan Campbell on what they have now and his confidence in the current defensive line room, aside from any moves being made. But here's Coach Campbell.
Now, what gives me hope moving forward is Aaron Glenn. All right. We've been coaching here, man, 4 years, and he's done everything in his power to work around any personnel we have and use the players that we have and get the most production we can. And we will be able to adapt to that. I have a lot of faith in that D-line room. Mac and Levi and Reeder, and Pascal and that group that's going in there, Ukwu. We got Muhammad on practice squad, Agude, Houston's still here. So we got options. And it's why we play with 3 phases. So we play offense, defense, special team. That's why we do it. And we help each other out. So we'll be just fine. We're going to move forward. And I'll kind of leave it at that.
So, okay, for a second, I'm just saying this because it's kind of funny. He was digging deep for that defensive line room. He was like,
he definitely was.
Who's the other guy we got?
He looked defeated answering that question. I'm not going to lie. Normally, Dan's upbeat, looking all the press in the face, like eye to eye con. He's head down, like,
he feels for his players, man. He does.
I mean, dude, the Hutch thing. It's like I know it's like this is the only negative, or I think part of the show we can have is talking
that has to be had.
Yeah, so like when I say earlier, let's be positive. There is the segments where it's like, okay, we are going to have the conversation about Hutch, and it is a negative thing because I've said it all. I've said it all year. I think Aidan Hutchinson was the best defensive player in the entire NFL, and I said it 2 weeks ago when we just got done with the Seahawks game. I believe Aidan Hutchinson was the most impactful NFL player as a whole throughout the whole season so far, out of any position, offensively, defensively, quarterback, running back, receiver, edge. Aidan Hutchinson's been the most impactful player that any team's had. So when you lose a guy like him, you're like, okay, this is tough. He was on track to have like a career year. His career was about to change. Like the Lions are about to have to pay him so much money. Now I'm going to say have to. They get to pay him because he's that good. You have that type of player on your roster. So like it is heartbreaking. It sucks. All of that with Hutch, that was brutal. And then the reality of the situation is, all right, we have to not turn the page, but you have to turn the corner and be like, okay, what's next? How do we figure this out while Hutch is out? And I think Dan, like there was the other part of the Dan part to where it's like he goes like, and he brings it up a little bit, and you could tell he's holding things close to him. Like they are definitely out there. Schefter definitely said, I put it on our Twitter today. Schefter came out and basically he got a phone call during the show of the Pat McAfee show, and they're like, hey, what's the phone call? Is it the Detroit Lions? He goes, no, it's not the Detroit Lions. He gives a little grin. And then after that, Pat McAfee asked him, is it someone asking about the Detroit Lions? And he goes, hey, you guys are good. So there are a lot of conversation, I'm sure, in the NFL right now being called to Brad Holmes, Brad making calls. I think Dan, like I know a lot of people are putting the quote out there of Dan being like, we're good with what we got in house. I think that's just saying like, if a deal doesn't get done, we will find a way. I'm confident. That's a way for you to keep your players like, hey, fellas, I'm confident in you guys. But deep down, Dan's sitting there in his head, and Brad and them are like, we have to go get someone. Like, we need to make sure we have some bodies in this room. Because your point, Jeff, him sitting there trying to pull out guys' names from the practice squad and all of that, like, yeah, like, that's the reality of the situation. And if you're a Super Bowl contending team and probably the best team in football right now, you just lost your most impactful player on both sides of the ball. You're sitting there and you're like, this is tough. So, yeah, he's not going to come out in the press conference. For all the people on Twitter who are like, oh, Dan, they're not going to do anything. Oh, here we go. No, Dan's not going to give you a word. I'm sure literally before he walked out into the media room, him and Brad had a meeting, and they probably, you guys remember the Hard Knocks thing with the Giants, the person, the PR person that the Giants GM like sat with, and they're like, all right, these are the bullet points. This is what you can't say. Let's approach it this way. Let's say it this way. Let's do it. They probably sat down with the PR guy. I think it's Iman there, and they probably sat down and said, hey, these are our bullet points. We're definitely looking for another player, but Dan, say it like this. We don't want you to say it this way or that way. Keep everything close to the chest. We don't need things getting out. Let's act like we don't need anything. Let's not look desperate, even though we are desperate. Let's not act desperate so we don't get absolutely fleeced in a deal. And that's what so like, yeah, we'll talk about players and stuff, but like, they need to go out and get someone. Like, you have to go get someone, and whether it's a big name or you go out there and just patch this thing up, because you can go win a Super Bowl patching up your D line. Like, in my opinion, I think you have good enough defensive players like Brian Branch and Kirby and Terrion and Carlton and Anzo and Jack and DJ and Aleem, Levi. Oh, you have enough really, really good players to where you could patch this thing up and still go out there and put a top 10 defense out in the field. Like, I truly do believe that. So I think Dan today was just keeping things close to his chest, doesn't want to give too much away, and I bet you they are dialing the phone. It probably won't happen this week, I'll just say that, or even next week, but trade deadline's in 3 weeks. There will be something made. There will be a move or two made.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, a move does need to be made, but I agree with everything you're saying besides the top 10 defense part. I think this is going to be something that you have to find a way to overcome. And situationally, they're going to have to play like a top 10 defense, but I just do not think they have the firepower to be able to do that. I mean, they weren't, when you look at yardage and yards given up and the quarterbacks that they've played, if they lose Aidan Hutchinson, there's no way, even if you replace him with a Harold Landry, there's no way you can replace Aidan Hutchinson. You have to find a way for these guys to step up and still get to the quarterback while your defense plays better. Now you have to ask Jared Goff, that offense, to play even better, because to your point, Booner, Aidan Hutchinson sometimes would single-handedly carry this defense to shutting down teams to 3 and outs, to be able to get off the field. Like, Aidan Hutchinson was that guy defensively. So not being able to replace him, if they do not go make a move, in my opinion, you can make a deep playoff run. You can make it to the NFC Championship game. You do not win a Super Bowl if you do not address the Aidan Hutchinson situation. You just can't do it, because we're talking about getting to the quarterback for one issue. But what is this Detroit Lions defense built on? Stopping the run. And defensively, on the defensive line, who's their best run defender? It's Aidan Hutchinson. So this run defense, it's still going to be very good, but it's going to take a dip. So you not only have to find a guy that can get to the passer, but it also has the ability to stop the run, because when you look at the guys on the edge that can stop the run right now, they're not true edges. Josh Pascal is not a guy that you feel comfortable consistently setting an edge out there against elite offensive tackles. When you have Christian Darrisaw next week, who's an elite offensive tackle with that offense, Josh Pascal is not a guy that you're going to want to have out there. Now, unfortunately, that's probably going to be the case. But when you talk about now the Minnesota Vikings are coming into Detroit, you need a guy that can put Sam Darnold under pressure, because Sam Darnold, at the end of the day, he's Sam Darnold. But when he's under pressure, that's when he can start seeing ghosts. Same thing with the goals like Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is a great receiving back, but if you get him going on the ground and through the air, that's when the game breaks open for Minnesota. So they have to find a guy that can do both, and at a consistent level, not another James Houston. Like, they have to go get a dude if you want to win a Super Bowl.
Let me bring up this comment, Michael. Let me, because I do agree with it. It sounded like they're kind of putting this on AG rather than picking anyone up. I think Booner, you explained it. I think they're gonna pick someone up, like you said.
Sure.
Dan's not gonna give out too much. He's gonna say I believe in our player, which is true. He does, but he's not gonna say, yeah, we need more help. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just that he's not gonna say that. So
one thing,
all the right things. Now, the part where he brought up AG, like, I trusted AG, like, he is right, but this is why I really do think, Brad, I think he is calling and making phone calls and trying to see. He always is, but especially now with Aidan being out, you got to be a little aggressive here and try and acquire someone, because if you don't and you're just looking at this like, yeah, AG will figure it out. Like, that's not fair to that man. You know what I mean? Like, that's not fair to him.
I don't
He's had to do it for so long.
Yeah.
He's done it the last.
man. Some pass.
He's done it the first 3 years in Detroit. They're like, guys, and this is the thing I think with these press conferences is and we do, because we tweet all this stuff out. We talk about it on the show, like taking a lot of it into account. Like Dan is kind of open at times, but he also is probably around the league. One, and it's weird to say this because it contradicts itself a little bit. He's probably pretty honest most of the time with people. And number two, he's probably one of the best in the league at his little poker face that he does a little bit, to where he tells you what you want to hear at times when that time does come. So I do think, like Dan today, he went on there and I watched the whole thing. And I started seeing people kind of freaking out about him being like, "Oh, we got AG, we're good. I love what we have in house." I promise you, if you listen, like Bill Belichick went on the Pat McAfee show today and mentioned, like, they're probably instantly not going to go in there and start calling people and try and get something instantly because they'll look desperate. But he brought, like, you have to go out there and find something. Like Bill Belichick's like, that's literally one of the best defensive players in the NFL. You can't fully replace him, but you have to do your best to do it. Like, you have to patch this thing up somehow, some way. So, like, the greatest of all time even mentioned it. So, like, Dan's just holding his cards close to his chest. You don't want to say too much, especially if you want to get some leverage. I do want to tell the people, though, like, again, it probably won't happen for another week or two. Like, you're going to go through this Vikings game. What's the game after that? The Titans or whatever. Yeah. You're going to go through a couple of these games without another. Like, you're going to have to play with what you have based off the situation. Because, like, unless you want to overpay right now, as the trade deadline comes around in 3 weeks, teams are going to start getting desperate to let guys go. And they're like, there's going to be a lot of phone calls on that trade deadline night, just like last year. And you, like, the Lions are in such a different spot from last year. Like, last year, Brad was very adamant about being like, we want to get in the dance, but we're not a Super Bowl contender. Like, we can make noise. I don't feel we're there yet. All summer long, these guys kept saying we're Super Bowl contenders. Right. So Brad knows. Like, he's like, we're all in this year. So if you guys don't think Brad's going to make a move, like, he will make a move. It's going to happen. There's no way he goes over the next 3 weeks and there's not a trade. Whether you like it or not, there will be a trade. Like, you know, like, yeah, you're a Super Bowl team and you're all in right now. You might not like the move, but he's gonna, if he thinks he loves it, he's gonna make a move.
And whether people want to believe it or not, and I know a lot of Lions fans would agree with this, Aidan Hutchinson, the caliber of player he is, if you don't make a move, he could be the difference between you winning a Super Bowl and not winning one. That's just the reality. So you have to go out and get talent to try and compensate for his loss. Like, for the people out there, and I'm not, like, specifically naming anyone, but I did see some of these comments of, like, oh, they'll remain with who they have, and Josh Pascal, and, you know, and these guys, they will be just fine. You're lying to yourself. I mean, you just are. If they don't make a single move just to get help on the edge,
yep,
and you're rolling with who you have, that is not a Super Bowl without Aidan. You look at the line this week, Aidan Hutchin, they were favorited. He's out. They're underdogs. That's the kind of player Aidan is. Now, you're not saying you're going to go get Aidan, but you got to get somebody that can help. Somebody that can help. And honestly, whoever you do get, who can consistently get after the quarterback, at least to some extent, again, doesn't have to be Aidan, they're going to help Aleem and DJ Reader. Like, you're helping those guys out as well. If you have Josh and Levi on the edge, Levi's actually been pretty good. But Josh isn't really a prototypical pure pass rusher. So I expect Brad to be aggressive, not overpay, not do anything stupid, not do anything irresponsible, but make a smart, strategic, calculated move that'll improve this team. And you get another body in the edge room, because now they're without 3 guys that were playing, or 2 guys that were playing last year, but 1 other guy that started this year. So 3 pretty big pieces on the defensive line. They don't have Derek Barnes, but I think they'll be fine. They have some pieces there. At that Sam position, but that edge, they're thin at this point. Like, Houston, really? Like, based on what we've seen at Houston, no, I'm good. I don't want to see that ever again. What I saw from Houston, like, he has no excuse now with the injury, no excuse not to perform.
What would you guys be willing to give up? Would you be willing to give up, like, say, I think Max Crosby, I think that's kind of like a out of the picture type of thing. Like, you'd have to give up not 1 first-round pick, but multiple first-round picks. I'm pretty sure Sefty said that. When you talk about players like Trey Hendrickson, players like Josh Hines-Allen, even like Troy, like, what is the top pick that you'd be like, all right, I'll give up a second-round pick, but I'm not giving up a first-round pick. I'll give up a late first, But that's it. Where are you guys ranging? What are you willing to give up as of right
So for me, like with the Max Crosby thing, like I'm not willing to give 3 first rounds. Like you saw like the tweet going around. I think it was like 2 first rounds, this, like all of this whole package. Like Max Crosby would change this thing instantly. So like, are you willing to do that? I guess I don't think Brad would be. Like, if I'm being honest, like it's not about what we would be willing. It's like, would Brad be willing? I don't think Brad's willing to go out there and hand out first round picks like it's candy on Halloween. Like, I don't think that's what Brad wants to do. That's why I do think it's more so like the Trey Hendrickson thing. Klotz, I'm not going to say the name. I don't want to give away your guy, but the guy that you like there are different guys. I think Max is the only one that could potentially be available that would be multiple first. But I think guys like Trey Hendrickson and Josh Hines, like some of these guys are just going to be maybe just a second or a second and a fourth or like a third and a fifth. Like those are guys I'm willing to do those deals. I'm willing to do those deals. Now, if the Max Crosby thing comes around and he's like, I want to be in Detroit and everything falls apart there. Now you do have to consider this. Is say it's like a first and like a third, or you get it down to 1 first. If you can get a Max Crosby for a first round pick and maybe a couple other later picks added to it, I don't know if that's possible. It might get to a point to where the Raiders have no choice and he wants to leave. I don't even know if it's ever going to get to that. I would do a first for a Max Crosby. Now, like the 3 or whatever, no, but a first, because essentially you do got to think you're all in on a Super Bowl now. If you're guaranteed with the first round pick ever to get a Max Crosby, you're like, yes. Like that's why you draft guys in the first round, is to hope to get guys like Max Crosby. So if that deal does come around, the only caveat to the Max Crosby thing is extensions and money and all of that. That's it. But if you're like, that's the thing. Like, but like, I don't think the Max Crosby thing's realistic. I think that we talked about it. Actually, we were talking about it earlier. I think that's the most unrealistic out of any of the trades. Like, I don't think they're never trading Max Crosby. If they do, I would be shocked. But I don't think it would happen. I think like the Trey Hendrickson, like he asked for I think all of those guys, like I think there's a lot of guys out there that's realistic, but the Max one seems the most unrealistic.
Yep. Where are you at? I don't have to add anything to the Max stuff. It's not happening. Adam Schefter already said teams have called the Raiders. They said he's unavailable. They're not trading him. So that's already out the window. Like you said, Boone, unless he says, I want to go to the Lions, and he's like, I am not playing another down for Las Vegas, then they have to trade him, but it's not happening. But anyone you have in mind, Klotzy, that you like?
I mean, there's a couple guys, and I'm sure we'll get into it more as the season goes on, even later in the week. But if there's one guy who just sticks out to me, just because of the age that he is, last year on his contract, is Khalil Mack. And Khalil Mack, I understand, Boone, that we were talking about earlier. It's semi-unrealistic because the Chargers are 3-2 right now. They think they can make the playoffs. But if you're sitting there as the Los Angeles Chargers GM and you're looking at where you're at, you're in the first year of this rebuild, quote-unquote. It's going to be a quick rebuild because you have Jim Harbaugh. And you have a veteran Khalil Mack who is commanding a lot of money, and you know you're not going to re-sign him next year. If you do, it's probably not going to be worth the money because you got to get a lot offensively to surround Justin Herbert. You trade Khalil Mack, because every player's got a price. Everybody's like, well, why would the Chargers, or some people would be like, why would the Chargers trade Khalil Mack? Because they're building for the future, and Khalil Mack's a player that you get for the present. Khalil Mack's a guy that's played in the NFC North. He was dominant with the Bears, and everywhere that he's went, with the Raiders when he was drafted, he was a monster. Trade him to the Bears, monster. Last year with the Chargers, monster. If you bring in him, not only are you going to get to the quarterback, not only is he going to help these young players develop on the field, but he's going to be able to stop the run and the pass, and he's going to be able to make good situational plays. He's a guy that if the Lions got him, what are we in right now? Week 6, going into week 6. Lions bring him at the trade deadline from week 8. From weeks 8 to 17, I could be willing to bet Khalil Mack gets you at least 6 to 7 sacks with DJ Reader and Aleem McNeil inside of him. He's a guy that knows everything that it's about to come to football. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer. I think it'd be equivalent when the Los Angeles Rams brought in Von Miller, except a little bit better because what he can do against the run. So Khalil Mack, I'm all for. Because he is a great player. But again, he wouldn't command a second-round pick, to Booner's point. Khalil Mack, even if it's overpaying because the Chargers are like Booner's point, like they're solid right now. They have a chance to make the playoffs. If you offer a third-round pick, I'd be all for it. It doesn't matter what it costs, because I think that's what keeps this window, at least for the season. Like, it keeps everything on track. I think with Aidan Hutchinson, it was through the roof what he was doing. But with Khalil Mack, it keeps it on track. So I'm all for Khalil Mack.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there. In terms of, you have to. This is what I talked about earlier on Bleacher Report, and I'm curious to hear what what player you like, Boone. But here's the I think Brad's looking at it. It has to make sense contractually, right? You have to look at it like, okay, is this player under a long-term contract for a lot of money? Because Brad, he has to re-sign guys that he's drafted. So contractually, it's going to be important. The other thing is it cost effective? What am I paying for this player? What's the return on the guy? Am I paying a first round, second round, mid-round pick for whoever? So if you have a guy that, let's say, is on an expiring deal, let's say someone who you could probably get for like a mid-round pick, maybe a late-round pick, maybe a swap, who knows? I think that's the type of deal that Brad's going to be interested in, like an expiring deal, maybe like 2 years at maximum left. Someone that kind of, because Brad likes his flexibility. So for Khalil, expiring, he's older, so you can give away like a mid-round pick, a late-round pick, whatever it is. And you have to look at teams that aren't that good, and the Chargers are above 500. But they tried to trade Mac at the last year in the offseason, So I'm curious what they do at the deadline, because what are you going to let him walk essentially for nothing? I'm curious. I like it. I don't mind the Mac at all. I like Khalil Mack. I haven't heard him talked about a lot, but I'm down with it. What about you?
Yeah, I haven't. No, like the Khalil Mack thing too, and I know we talked about it actually earlier. Klotz said, "Booner, save it for the show." Listen, I don't like. For me, I like the Khalil Mack thing. I think it's great. Like if that happened, like last year, he was on the trade block down the trade deadline because they didn't have it was a different regime. They didn't know what was going on. They wanted to get guys out. The money was a lot. So if he's available, I'm all in on that. I don't think he will be available, but Klotz, if he's available, I'm all in. So I want you to know that my guy, and you know what? I talked about this guy a couple of weeks back, and I think it might be very, very realistic. And I think Brad Holmes potentially, I wouldn't be shocked if he's already made the phone call over to the GM. But this is a guy I think the most realistic, the best one. The full game streaming over there on the chat is just absolutely destroying us right now. I don't know if you guys see that in the comments.
Yeah, shout out to the mods for banning that guy. We'll get to that.
Oh my gosh. But I think the biggest one you need to look at, and you need to try to go all in. Actually, I think there's a couple guys, but the number one guy for me, the Cincinnati Bengals defensive edge, Trey Hendrickson. I think that one makes the most sense. Like less than 4 months ago, this man, Trey Hendrickson, was asking the Bengals for a trade. He said, "Hey, I want to be out. I'm out. I don't want to do this anymore." And I know you guys have had questions like, well, he has another year on his deal. Maybe they want to run it back with him next year. His cap hit this year is 15, and then next year it's 20. I think there actually is a potential out after this season. It looks like, I could be wrong, but it looks like there's a potential out with Trey Hendrickson. So whatever you want to do with that. But with that whole thing is okay, Jeff, I know you said earlier, they want to run it back with Trey Hendrickson. Listen, the Bengals didn't even sign him to an extension this offseason. They made it very, very well known that they don't know if they want Trey Hendrickson in their future. And Trey is a guy, and he's been very, very well known over the last 4 or 5 months, who wants to get an extension done long term. He took a discount a couple years ago for them and say, "Hey, I'll do a short term deal, but I want my long term deal in about a year or two in that summer." And they kind of screwed him over and didn't give him that. So the Bengals are on bad terms with Trey Hendrickson. He wants to probably be there. But if there's an opportunity for a guy like him to go to a contending team and come here in Detroit, where you just have to replace Hutch, and then maybe you can keep Trey Hendrickson for a $15 million cap hit next season with Aidan Hutchinson, and all you have to do is give up a second round pick, why not?
And
why would you?
DJ Reader, Boone?
And DJ Reader, like, why would you not go out and get Trey Hendrickson? That should be the number one thing you want to go do, is go get Trey Hendrickson. That should be the number one option for Brad Holmes. I don't know where you guys are at with that, but I just think that's the most realistic, because he literally is asked out already. He went out there and was like, "I want to be gone." And if they might not lose next week, but you're saying that too, guys. Bengals aren't making the playoffs. They're not. They're 2-4. They started. They're not making the playoffs. It's over for them. They literally just almost lost to the Giants. They are done.
To your point, though, Boone, like same thing with the Chargers, is like they play the Browns. Like the Bengals have an easy schedule, and this is going to be the last year where they have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins together. So I think at least, to your point from earlier, like a trade probably won't happen in 2 to 3 weeks, so we'll get more clarity. But I think right now in Cincinnati, they're waiting at least. I think they believe they can get past this and get at least to above 500 to slip in the wild card with the way that Cleveland is, and the Steelers. We'll see how long they can be good for. I think Cincinnati still thinks they have a chance. That's why I would put, honestly, like Henderson and Mack in the same tier. Who would I rather have? I'd rather have Hendrickson just because you just talked
Yeah.
about you can bring him into next year. And
Yeah.
I think he'd be all right with that as far as staying on the deal that he is. But I like you said with Mac, I love Trey Hendrickson. I just think because the Bengals, they see Cleveland's coming, and I forget who they play after that. They have two to three winnable games in the future. They want to at least see what they got still.
I think if they drop another
Deadline,
game,
maybe.
if they have 5 losses or maybe 6 losses at the deadline, out
Mhm.
of the Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson conversation, I would by far, I would say that Trey Hendrickson is the most realistic at the end of the day. And I think it's because of what happened in the offseason. They're like, hey, we're not going to give him an extension and kind of the butting heads there. And he said, I'm just going to play the year out. I'm going to do it. I'm going to see what happens. If an opportunity comes out and you're sitting at 2-6, 2-7, 3-6, then why not put him on the trade block if you're going to lose him in a year or two anyways? Why would you not do that?
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to welcome in our guest here and appreciate him for joining the show to kind of break down the Aidan Hutchin injury. I know a lot of Detroit sports fans are kind of freaking out right now, and hopefully the doc can provide us some more insight to this. So please welcome to the show the man, board-certified family and sports medicine physician, also the owner of Injury Experts, which, again, if you guys play fantasy football, it's a great thing to use, great tool to use because injuries are the most important thing really in fantasy football. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Dr. Jesse Morse. How you doing, Doc?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. It's nice to have you. I appreciate you taking the time today to kind of get some more clarity on this. I know we watched it. We do these watch parties every single week where, we'll watch Lions games and we had to watch it live, and it was traumatic. Aidan's a great human being. He's a heck of a football player, but someone like you that has a lot of expertise in this area. Just your initial reaction to the injury and kind of the severity of it and your just initial thoughts. And now that you have more clarity on the situation.
Yeah, it was just unfortunate. It was just a freak kind of fluke play. He was just coming around the corner and he came a little harder than I guess he should have. And the lineman was just placed in the wrong position. And it looked like he just kind of clipped the guy's shin basically.
Yeah.
But the force of, how fast he was going and how strong the other guy's leg is, you saw the knee or the lower leg basically kind of bend. And obviously that doesn't happen. That's like stuff from a movie.
Yeah.
And when you saw that, you knew something had to be fractured. You can't do that any other way. And most commonly we injure the fibula, the small one on the outside. That's what happened to Pacheco. But with this type of force, and you saw how much movement the lower leg had, you pretty much had to do the tibia as well. And when you hear that, it's not good. It's a very, very strong bone. That's very hard to fracture, especially in a guy of that size.
Yeah,
he's a freak athlete. He's huge. So think about how hard it would be to break that bone, and also on the opposite end, think about how hard the guy's bone was in order for it to break his bone.
Right.
It's crazy, unfortunate, but definitely, unfortunate, no question.
One thing too that I think we keep seeing around social media, and obviously there's going to be so many different things that pop up. And the one thing is the timetable of the injury. We've seen 4 months, 6 to 8 months, all these different things. And then Dan Campbell came in a press conference today and said, if there's one guy to not count out of being back, whether it's a Super Bowl or not, it's Aidan Hutchinson. Can you just kind of talk about? Is there ever a chance with this, like if it's like a clean or best case scenario?
Yeah.
I know it sounded tough, but where February 9th Lions make the Super Bowl where he's there, and then even kind of following that too into 2025, say he doesn't play this year, does this type of injury, will it affect his bend and his speed, or is it something that you can fully recover from?
So initially when I heard that it was a tibia, we knew it was a tibia, but when we knew it was a tibia, we didn't know if the fibula was involved. Now, the fibula is involved. If the fibula is involved, is a bigger deal. So, if it was a mid-shaft tibia, which is basically kind of like right here, you can put a rod through that, and hopefully it doesn't affect the ankle, what we call mortise or joint, that much. That would have been in a quote-unquote ideal situation where he didn't have any ligament damage, where the bone stayed in the skin as opposed to popping out of the skin. and the fibula wasn't fractured. There's no nerve damage, and there's no syndesmotic or high ankle ligament damage. That would have been a perfect situation. In that scenario, he probably would have been able to come back. It would have been about 2 to 3 months, and with that time frame, I specialize in kind of optimizing healing, I guess you'd probably say. So I do a lot of stem cells. I help people with hyperbaric chambers and different types of IVs and different things that can optimize healing. So you can use that.
Okay.
But when he ended up, when they confirmed today, the Lions officially released it, that it was indeed a tibia plus a fibula. That tells me that there's a very good chance there is ligament damage, that the ankle, what I call the ankle mortis, which is down here, is all messed up, and the high ankle, which is the syndesmotic ligament, which is in between these two bones, which is, he broke both of them, so you pretty much have to injure that. In so many words, you don't have to, but it's really hard not to. That's what makes it, I wouldn't say almost impossible, but very, very, very challenging for that time frame to come back.
Okay.
And Doc, with how bad would that injury look, do you think there's any positive outlook when you look at that and go, well, this could have been much worse? Because seeing pictures of that, seeing how the leg just fell back, it's like this almost is the worst case situation. So is there any way that this injury could have been worse?
Oh, there's always can be worse.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you one name and you'll understand how it can be worse. Alex Smith.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, you're right, Doc. You're right. Yeah.
If you can get that mental image, or I can't get it out of my head, but what I call the exos, which is an exoskeleton on the outside of the body where they had to fix the bone from the outside with the metal. If you can pull it up, it's freaking crazy. That is potentially what could have happened. He had something like 19 surgeries to fix that knee, that lower extremity. So yes, it can unfortunately always get worse. If the bone popped out of the skin, as crazy as it sounds, that would have been detrimental, much more problematic, because when that happens, the incidence of infection is almost 100%. It's really, really high, just because the trauma it takes, and there's a lot of bacteria on our skin. If that obviously gets an opening in a wound, it's just a nightmare. So we didn't hear anything like that, which means it's what we call a closed fracture, and that is, again, a better case scenario. I will bring something up to you. I've seen a couple of these pros. I've seen a couple of these. You've probably heard of foot drop before.
Mm-hmm.
Foot drop is an injury to a nerve that causes the inability to pick up your foot. And that can happen with this type of injury. Okay. Because that nerve runs at the base of the fibula, the base of the small bone on the outside, right about here. So if you fracture it there, again, we don't know exactly where he fractured. It could be in 5 pieces. We don't know. If he injured that nerve, you need to make sure that nerve fires back. That's the type of stuff that I would personally inject stem cells near, because you want to get the injury to the nerve healed as quickly as possible, even within a day, if you could.
Right.
But assuming and hoping that doesn't happen and everything's perfect, then that's something you don't really have to worry about. But it is a possibility.
And one last question now before we let you go. You mentioned Alex Smith, and we know what that meant for his career. He was eventually able to return, but with the infection and stuff like that, it made it much more difficult. And I think his age, too, had something to do with it. Aidan, young, he's about my age. Long term, you don't see this being a kind of a lingering problem with him, like a weaker leg or anything like that at his age? Or you think it's a more positive thing?
He might have a little bit of issues next year. It's going to take some time, but he's such a freak. He's young, so he has that going for him. It really comes down to the ankle joint. As long as he didn't injure any of the ligaments in and around the ankle, and the Achilles for that matter, then I'm not overly worried. Yeah, this is the type of guy that he can lose 3 or 4% and look like nothing ever happened. Like, it's just a freak.
Yeah.
Is he going to have issues in the future as a result of this? Yes, he will have arthritis in that ankle, assuming he injured nowhere enough to injure the lower aspect of the ankle, because that's the only really way you really get arthritis only if you fracture the ankle. It's very hard to get arthritis in your ankle. So 5, 10, 15 years down the road, okay, fine. But fast forward a year, you're probably not going to notice a whole lot, assuming the nerve cooperates, assuming everything goes according to plan. I'd probably give him realistically 4 to 6 months from now, and then he'll be, I wouldn't say unlimited, but he'll be pretty good.
Got it. Appreciate you so much, Doctor. And again, guys, check out his stuff. He does great stuff, especially if you're in fantasy football. He's your go-to guy. Hey, hopefully, I want to say hopefully we don't have to get you out in the future. Hopefully we got no more injuries, Doc. Appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure. Take care, guys.
Appreciate you.
Dr. Jesse Morse taking time out of his day to join the program. That's why I like listening to medical professionals, because
breaks it down so good.
Yeah.
Imagine us trying to describe all that. Hell no.
Bunch of.
And it does give me hearing him a little bit, like obviously the long term stuff, but that seemed like arthritis in 10 years. Like, all right, but to where he's in 4 to 6 months, he's going to be kind of good back to where he might not be ready to return, but he's back fully working out and getting healthy again. That gives me a lot of faith for 2025. So I'm not. I did, as much as we hate the conversation with Hutch, I think that was a positive takeaway to where no compound, so it didn't break if it would have broke the skin, that would have been a disaster, disaster. And Dan Campbell yesterday, Dan Campbell's usually perfect on the podium. He was on the podium post game and said it was a compound fracture, and the Lions PR quickly had to be no, it was not. Don't put that out there.
Yeah, a lot of misinformation. And I know he brought up how worse it could have been. Alex Smith is the worst. There's other ones that are up there, but Aidan, with his age, and it wasn't Alex Smith, he'll be fine. I have full confidence. That dude works his tail off, but appreciate the doc joining. I know we were talking a little bit before. No, go on, Boo.
I just say if there was any player, like Dan said it, if there's any player on this team that will lock in and try and get back, whether he gets back or not this year or get back for 2025.
Yeah.
You would have to think it's Aidan Hutchinson. I know we've seen guys do it. And last year, CJ Garner-Johnson got back pretty quick with the pec. But the way Hutch works, as good as he's gotten, we all heard about his offseason regimen and routine and everything that he's done the last 2 years. I could not imagine. I don't know when the first time I'm obviously he just had surgery, so he probably can't get. I'm sure he's already today was what can I do? What can I do? And it's dude, you just had surgery, but I'm sure he was let's go. Let's attack the day. What do we need to do?
Yeah.
And I he's probably that mindset he has. Everyone on that team talks about they want to do and be what Hutch does in his mindset of attacking every day. So I'm not worried at all about his recovery. He's going to come back and win Defensive Player of the Year next year. I'll put my life on it.
Wow. Hey, that's how only Booner would do that, and I appreciate it.
I'm calling it now. The day one or the second after it happened. I think I actually told one of you boys that on the stream, or I said it right away. He's winning Defensive Player of the Year next year. If he's out next year, probably the first person. Hey, I love being first to things. First person. I'm running it right back.
What did I say, Boone? Not this year. You won't get it. Next.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that, Klotzy.
Hey, maybe come back.
Klotzy did text me today and said, "Hey, TJ Watt." No, we're not doing that, Klotzy. It was really sad to see though, going into the sports books and seeing just Hutch's name not on the Defensive Player of the Year award. I was
third.
Yeah. I had my bets and everything. I put my money where my mouth is, and it's just I text you guys. I was this is one of the most depressing things I've ever had to look at.
Yeah, it's crazy when Doc brought up just how big he is, how hard that bone is to break. With his mass, he's such a big dude. It took a Liam in that collision, car crash, essentially. Just a freak accident. That's what it was.
It reminded me, and I think somebody commented in the chat too, but it reminded me of when Anderson Silva snapped his leg. The same type of thing, shin on shin, and just
yeah.
The doc was saying that drop stuff. Isn't that what happened to Sugar Sean too? I forget who he was fighting, but he always talks about he couldn't move his foot up and down. So
yeah, it's nerve, something with the nerve. Again, I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not even going to speak on it. But hey, I tell you what I am going to do. Bring up another guy that I think could help stop a little bit of the bleeding now, at least from people's eyes. People now reacting to Aidan's injury. I got a name for you guys, and I want to hear what you guys think in the chat. Feel free. What do you guys think about it as well? I got a guy. Here's a guy. Now here's a guy who with a good team was motivated. The love of the game was back. 9.5 sacks with a good roster. That roster being the Baltimore Ravens. And then he leaves. And then he goes to this place. It's almost like a purgatory. And I guess that would be the Carolina Panthers. Signs a 2-year deal for 20. Yeah, a 2-year deal to go to the Carolina Panthers. And that is Jadeveon Clowney. Now, listen for a second, okay? All right. Before you're like, oh, that guy's washed or whatever. Clowney, 9.5 sacks, not just a year ago with the Ravens. He is somebody that is cheap, won't cost a lot. He's on the Panthers. Everyone on the Panthers is available. We know that, basically. And he's only under a 2-year contract, and it's not expensive. It's like $6 million the first year and $14 million the second year, but then it's done. So it would be cheap. It's cost effective. It's short term, and he's a vet who's played in a lot of big games. And I think he's somebody somebody you have to worry about because he kind of knows his role. He's going to get after the passer. He's good against the run. So he kind of checks all those boxes for me. Like, yeah, again, you're not going to find Aidan Hutchinson's replacement. You're just not. Max Crosby's not coming. But I think Clowney's an interesting option. And I would propose that to you guys. We'll get into Harold Landry in a second. But what do you think about Jadeveon Clowney?
I think it's a fair one. I had that on my list earlier this morning when I started looking at some players. I think there was a lot of people on Twitter that actually saw the Lions Nation that was like, no, we don't want him. I don't know why you wouldn't. He's been he's a vet in this league, and he goes out there and he's probably going to come in to where he's able to give you everything he's got in this year. And I know it's a 1-year thing, but it's cheap. And I don't think, and this is where the mindset has to go a little bit. Is like he's not going to be the replacement for Hutch. Like you're going to bring another guy. You're going to have to unless you get a Max Crosby or Trey Hendrickson, Myles Garrett, that type of player, like you're going to have to go out and get 1 or 2 guys to figure out to fill this thing in. It's not going to be just one guy. And I think with the defense that AG's putting together a little bit, Clowney would be good in this. If you get Clowney and another player, I think you're going to get some sort of production out of this. Put him with the Levi O, and he has DJ Reader and Aleem in there with him as well. You could get something
stitch it together. You could stitch it together.
And that's where I think people do instantly no, not Clowney, because he's not the 10 sack guy that you need. You're not going to find a 10 sack guy. The real K77 said Clowney is not moving the needle for him. You're not going to get anyone that's going to move the needle like Aidan Hutchinson at the end of the day. It won't happen unless you get the Max Crosby or those. And if you're sitting there you want those guys, you're probably going to be disappointed. That's if that happens, I'm setting myself up to where if that happens, I'm that's a dream. Clowney, and that is more realistic. I have a guy too. Klotz, I'll let you go with Clowney. I have one other guy that I think is similar to Clowney to where it's realistic and could happen.
Yeah, I would be all in on Clowney. I mean, you look at why he produced in Baltimore is because he had a dominant interior defensive lineman with Malcolm Adebuke. So you add in the Aleem McNeil and DJ Reader combination. I don't know that, and they're not going to get the Adebuke production, but that gives Jadeveon Clowney a little bit leg up because he's not the old Jadeveon Clowney. But the reason I love Jadeveon Clowney is because he's so damn good against the run. He's able to set the edge. You putting Jadeveon Clowney against the San Francisco 49ers in a playoff game, I'm not he's going to dominate out there. But you know what? Jadeveon Clowney is going to hold his own. And at this point, the Detroit Lions roster at the defensive edge spot do not have that. So if you were I don't want Jadeveon Clowney, then all right, go ahead and sell your future and try to get Max Crosby. That's not going to happen to Booner's point. So I would be all for Jadeveon Clowney because he'd be cheap and he's somebody that would just know his role at this point. He's not going to try to act like he's the defensive leader of this team.
But real quick, let me just add this on Jadeveon. I think people get obsessed with judging. I think situation matters for all players. It does. When you lose the love you have for the game, given it, because let's be real here. Okay, he took that bag. Okay, he just wanted that money. That's what he took. He took the $20 million. He said, "I'm coming to Carolina." Now he's in a position where he's like, "This stinks. This team stinks. This organization stinks. I want out." With the Ravens, a good organization, well coached. Good players, you got the best out of Jadeveon Clowney. Now he's coming to the Lions. Good coaching staff, good players. You're chasing a Super Bowl. that I think will get that spark back in him. So I think people get too harped on what he's doing this year with a terrible team, but try to look at it what he would be with the Lions. But you can continue, Vince. I just want to add that in.
Klotz, I thought I heard you say a name there. Did you say Zadarius Smith?
I have not yet.
So
No,
that's my other guy. And I think, like, if we're going to sit here, let's take away these big names. Let's just go names that might be actually realistic. One of the ones probably at the top of the list, like Clowney, I think is up there. But, like, realistically, guys, the Cleveland Browns, what are they, 1-5 right now? A lot of people, I heard Mike Valenti today talk about Myles Garrett. The Browns are done. Like, they're in a they don't have they're paying their quarterback so much money. They are done. I don't know what the Browns are going to do. You're sitting there with the guy with Zadarius Smith, who in 2022 in Minnesota had 10 sacks, 5.5 this last year, and right now he's sitting at 3 sacks on this Browns team that's 1-5, and he only has, like, I think he has an out. I'm looking at his contract now. This year he has a $5.2 million cap hit. It looks like there's a potential out after this year, or in 2025, and next year there's a $9.4 million cap hit if you were to keep him next year. That's a guy to where they're like, we can get some draft picks out of him. And you can go, like, if the Bears or the Browns are in a little rebuild, they can go get their draft picks from us. We'll give them some late round picks for a guy for a year or two to keep him as a rental and to go out there and replace Hutch. And you maybe bring in a Clowney and you bring 2 of those guys in, or 2 kind of mid-level guys. Why would you not want that? I think Zadarius Smith, I'm not going to lie, when the deadline comes up in the next 2 weeks, he is going to be in a lot of conversations, I'm sure. And especially in Detroit, I think Brad Holmes look at him and be like, yep, he could be a fit here. And you could bring him in and he's going to give you something, especially when you have the defensive line, the interior that you have. Zadarius Smith's going to have an opportunity to go out there. So, and Derek Glass said he has a $20 million cap hit, though, dead cap hit. But if you look at it, like, it says if you go out of it, I'm looking at it, potential out 2025, 1 year, $12 million, $14.2 million dead cap hit. But if you keep him, the cap hit next year is $9.4 million. So, like, I'm just looking here. I'm just looking at what is it, Spotrac? That's what I'm reading. That's all I'm reading. So I think Zadarius is a very, very listen, I think that's one of the best options, to be honest. I think, like, Brad legit could actually do that. And I do see there's a bunch of voided years, so maybe that's what he's talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't honestly, guys, I don't hate the Zadarius Smith suggestion either. I think that the Browns, tough out there in Cleveland, Klotzy.
Stefanski, hey, coach of the year.
Hey, I was told be coach of the year. I don't know. Hey, real quick, shout out Roman, aka Revive Graphics, aka the best graphic.
That's it.
No go. Did you see it yet, Boo?
He's in another stratosphere.
I have no clue what this is.
You're gonna want to read, like,
look what our guy Roman just cooked up.
Oh my gosh, I see it in the back.
W here. Roman in the chat. I mean, look at this shit. Are we kidding? What? Hold on. Let me just take the lower third off. So
wait. No. Hey, take that thing off for a second. Take that off for a second.
Ooh! What do you mean? What?
We don't want anyone to take it and post it before us.
Oh, yeah.
What are we doing here, Chad?
Hey, it's got the logo on there, Boone. It's gonna cut the helmet off when they try to crop it out too. Well, all right.
This guy is I don't know what he's doing. I mean,
the worst part is just like, it's not gonna happen. It's just not gonna. It's just like feeding, like, the fucking devil on the side of your shoulder right now.
Yeah, he is. He's different. I
love Roman, dude. That man is he is the best in the game. It's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, say this. I'm not going to say anything.
Now you're like, bring him back. Maybe there is a chance. Fuck it. Maybe there is a chance now that Roman made that.
And kind of just to get back a little bit on track a little bit, fucking insane graphic by Roman. But I think as far as Zadarius Smith goes, he's the same exact thing that Jadeveon Clowney is. I think he's built a little bit different, but they do the exact same thing, kind of in the same age gap. So I think with both of them, I would love either of them. But I know, Boone, you brought up the likelihood, or not likelihood, you brought up the idea of them bringing in 2 players. What do you think the chance of them actually – because I just think you got to go with one, because somewhere around the NFL team's going to be willing to pay to trade for the other one and pay a little bit more if they're saying, well, hey, Detroit's going to offer us this.
Yeah, I don't know. I think if you're going to bring in two, it's going to be, in my opinion, you trade for one, and then the other's like a Bruce Irvin, make someone piss blood type of move. I think that would be
Tyson
like,
Alualu.
yeah, in my opinion, because I'm with you. I don't see Brad making two transactions via trade. I just don't. I don't see that. I could see like a Zadarius Smith and like you're bringing someone off the street that maybe isn't signed. That could kind of contribute for you. Like again, they just need some bodies in the defensive line room on the edge. So that's where I'm at with it. I don't see them trading for two. We're just trying to get Brad to trade for one. We're getting a little greedy.
And even then, it's like, but I do think because we talked about it even when we talked about the Chargers and possibility to bring Khalil Mack, like. They know that where their windows are at. And Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell both have spoke on, like, we knew that we were going to be good in 2023, 2024, but we didn't expect Super Bowl. We thought we were ahead of schedule. Now that they're on schedule, you would at least hope, especially with the lack of attention. And this is the one thing where it's like, all right, Brad's a human being. Brad is not a robot. Brad is going to make mistakes. If there's one mistake that Brad has made that is glaring at this point, it's his inability to address the edge spot. You talk about, and we like the picks. But you look at even in past drafts, we'll use this draft specifically. In the third and fourth round, you take a developmental tackle in Giovanni Manu and a running back that you already have David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Craig Reynolds in Sion Vaki. When at this point, and I don't know who it would be, but I'd be willing to bet there's a guy in those rounds at the defensive edge spot that could be making an impact for this team more than what you have. You talk about James Houston. You could have a guy that could legitimately be playing better than James Houston that you take with those picks. And even through free agency, you bring in Marcus Davenport, great player, but when healthy, and he's more hurt than healthy over the course of his career. So in my opinion, this is what Brad, if he's made a mistake, he's hit 99.9999999% of the time. But that 0.1% is that defensive end spot, and he's missed on it so far outside of Aidan Hutchinson. You got to at least kick in that, okay, now we got to go and get somebody because we've missed on it in the past. You got to correct your mistake, in my opinion.
What do you think of Xavier? He addressed the edge spot. They're both seasoned, dumbass. Shout out Xavier. I'm gonna be honest. Like Brad, Brad, in terms of drafting, he's drafted Aleem. He's drafted Aidan. We all in lockstep. Two very good players. Mekhi Wingo, very good player. Like he's done good in drafting interior guys. But to your point, he hasn't really drafted like too many peer. I mean, James Houston's really good, but he fell off a cliff at this point. So you don't really have anyone at this point. So Brad's been doing a hell of a job finding defensive linemen, but he hasn't really just taken a lot of shots on edges, like it just hasn't been, I don't know. You have Levi, but Levi, I don't know. Is he an edge? Would you say Levi's an edge?
I think Levi at this point or when he drafted him, you wanted him to be a defensive interior guy, like a one tech type of thing. But now when they're like, okay, he's actually a lot more athletic than we thought. He had to lose weight because of injury. He's now kind of like that Josh Pascal, like a tweener. You can use him as a 5-tech, but he's not a defensive edge. Like I'm talking specifically edge. You know what I mean? Like you bring in James Houston, Aidan Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport. Those are the real only acquisitions that he's made at that spot. Aidan Hutchinson, home run and a half. But it's like, all right, now what? Like Marcus Davenport, solid player, but again, like we said, hurt a lot. And now it happened. Like Marcus Davenport always gets hurt. So what's going to happen? He got hurt for the whole season. Aidan Hutchinson for the whole season. It's unfortunate, but now it's glaring where it's like, okay, we never really addressed that edge spot like the other positions that we have. And I think it's because Aidan Hutchinson was so good, and it sucks that he had to get hurt. But now you got to do something about it. You can't just trust on the guys that you brought in.
Let's get Caleb in here. All right, let's get the man in here to help us break down some of these edge spots. Hey, what up, Caleb?
What's going on, gentlemen? What's going on?
Dude,
Victory Monday.
Hey, I need your thoughts. I mean, you could talk about your reaction to the game itself. Love to hear your thoughts on that. I mean, we've been diving into these, just the guys that are going to be available for trade. So I don't know. First, your reaction to the game, the ass whooping on Jerry's birthday, and then kind of you can get into who you like the Lions to go shop and what do you think is going to happen.
Well, first off, the win was great. I mean, we clowned them at Jerry's house. It was awesome. But obviously the injury to Hutch, it's devastating. It's gut wrenching. I think there's a lot of names being thrown around. Obviously, Max Crosby's one of them. If that's a guy that's really available, and the Raiders are shopping him, I don't think you can miss on that opportunity to go get a guy like that. Even if that means you have to give up 2 first-round picks, and if it's Hendon Hooker or someone like that, I would make that move just because I don't like to use the term Super Bowl window. I don't necessarily think the Lions have one because we're so young. But I just think losing a guy like Hutch, it hurts your Super Bowl chances. It does, and edge rusher is super important, down the stretch, especially in the postseason. And I think going and getting a guy like Max Crosby would be awesome, but it might be a little unrealistic. But
yeah,
who knows? And then people are talking about. Oh, go ahead.
No, go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go on. You're good.
I was just gonna say, and people are talking. What about down the line? What about the future? If your future is a Lee McNeil, DJ Reader, Aidan Hutchinson, and Max Crosby as your front 4, that's not too shabby. That's great. And I hear a lot of people talking about James Houston. I don't want to hate on James Houston right now, but I think we kind of know what kind of player we have now in James Houston.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that first year was a flash in the pan, but he had a bad training camp. I didn't even know if he was going to make the team. And this is a guy that people want to replace Aidan Hutchinson, the best edge rusher in football. Yeah, I don't know about that. So guys like Trey Hendrickson, Max Crosby, those definitely have to be on. They definitely have to be on the Lions' radar.
Dude, it's like that saying. It's like if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. It's like Houston. He's the duck. I mean, if he's doing other penalties, he's not getting after the quarterback. I mean, he probably just stinks at this point. Like, unfortunately, I don't know.
Yeah, I think the coach this week looked better.
Yeah, Dan said Uku was getting a little better. So they got. I mean, we mentioned some names earlier, Caleb. I don't know what you think of them. I mean, like, and what up, Boone? I look at Boone over there. He's back.
What up, Boone?
Am I frozen?
You're back.
No, you're back. You're good.
All right, here we go. Here we go. What up, Caleb?
What up?
Jeff, one more time.
So we were talking about some names. I mentioned Jadeveon Clowney. Boone mentioned Trey Hendrickson. Lukas mentioned Khalil Mack. Any of those names interest you? Because we did talk. We're with you with the Mack stuff. Like, love it. Raiders are probably like, nah, I'm good. But any other names that you're over here you're in love with more than others?
Yeah, Khalil Mack is a guy that I wanted this offseason. I thought he was going to be a guy that was going to get moved. Because I didn't really know what direction like that team was going to go in with, Harbaugh coming in, and they're not the most talented team. They lost Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. I thought Khalil Mack was going to be a guy they were going to let go of. But yeah, he's making a lot of money. That's the only thing. But I mean, he's older, but he's still better than the options we have right now, and he won't be expensive at all. I think realistically, I mean, you guys could tell me if I'm wrong here, but do you think a fourth would, maybe a third and a fourth would do it? Maybe even less than that. For Khalil Mack.
That's what I thought. Like a third, and I think that's even a reach with the age, and he's only got 1 year left.
Oops. Yeah. I mean, that's a guy, and Trey Hendrickson, obviously. I mean, it goes Crosby, Hendrickson, and then probably Khalil Mack for me. I like Jadeveon Clowney, but I mean, those top 3 guys are the guys I like.
Yeah, well, hey, now that you're back, Boone, we were going to get into it a little bit now, but I know we put on our social media as well, Jared Goff, to kind of get more into a positive conversation. Jared Goff over the last 3 games, boys, he's been Jared Goff's been dialed, absolutely dialed. I know he had the perfect game, but here, let me put this up so you guys can see more. And
by the way, too, shout out to Caleb because he sent me a tweet the day before, and it was last night. Just absolutely gut-wrenched to the game. I tweeted the same thing out from our account, and it just did not cross my mind. I just forgot about it. Shout out to Caleb, though, because
it's all good. It's all good. Thank you, man.
That means we're on the same wavelength here. That means we're cooking on all cylinders here.
Hey, those numbers stand out. You look at those numbers, you're like, yep, this is a post. This is almost unbelievable. This is MVP shit Jared Goff's doing.
Yeah.
Dude, this is MVP shit.
Before we get into the conversation, the MVP race has yet again, like, it's like there's
no one.
And Jared Goff right now, Boone.
In the last 3 weeks,
7 in Jerry's world.
Listen,
18 for 18.
If the MVP award was weeks 3 to 5 or 6, Jared Goff would be the NFL MVP. You would he is the quarterback for the number one offense, the team. Like, he has dominated over the last 3 weeks. Like, look at that, 81% completion percentage, 800 yards, 7 touchdowns, one, not even no fumbles, nothing, just 1 interception. The passer rating, the record, he has been MVP level. I know it sucks because those first 2 weeks, and for me to go out there in the offseason and say, hey, I think Jared Goff, with the weapons he has, Ben being back, everything that we know this offense can be, there's no question, whether you think he's talented or not, if you're the quarterback of an offense like that, a top 5 offense in the NFL, you're going to be in that conversation. And that was where my mindset was. And you've seen it the last 3 weeks. Like, guys, this offense is, I said it earlier in the show, if they play at the level they have the last 2 weeks and they keep this level going and they somehow just keep getting better, it could be one of the best offenses in NFL history. Like, there's who is stopping that? You literally have the best 2 running backs, 2 top 10 running backs in the NFL in the backfield. You have the number 1 offensive line. You have a top 10 quarterback playing at a high level. You have Amon-Ra, an all-pro receiver. You have J-Mo, who's going to be a Pro Bowler this year if he keeps this up. You have Tim Patrick now, who's put up multiple 700-yard seasons. You have a top 5 tight end. This offense right now is stacked. Name me an offense in the NFL that's this stacked. You can go to the Chiefs and be like, well, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, they have but Klotz, to your point, all the last 2 weeks, everyone's getting hurt. Pacheco's out. Rashid Rice out. Like, everyone's out. Hollywood Brown out.
Last week.
So,
the corpse of Juju.
Yeah, so someone tell me an offense right now that's better than this on paper and statistically, because if they keep doing what they did the last 2 weeks, but it seems like even if they play bad, this offense is going to give you 80% of what you saw in Dallas and Seattle. So this offense, guys, I'm just going to say it, you're going to win a Super Bowl through this offense now. And I've said it's going to be through the defense. I didn't expect the offense to do what they've done the last 2 weeks. I thought they're going to be pretty good. They're number 1 in the NFL through 5 weeks in points per game. I think the only team in the NFL averaging over 30 points per game, and they're dominating teams.
I mean, I'll just add, guys, the odds, I'm not saying I don't think he's going to win it, but you cannot deny that the odds, he was at plus 4,500. Then I checked and it's plus 2,500. Now it's plus 2,000. I just checked. It's in the thousands, high thousands. So it's slowly creeping.
If they go into Minnesota without Aidan Hutchinson and Jared Goff, again, plays like he has been the last 2 weeks, he's going to be in the top 5 at the bare minimum. It'll be Patrick Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen, and then it would be between Goff and Joe Burrow pretty much. Maybe CJ Stroud, but you're taking Goff the way he's playing right now. So it's crazy. Not to mention something that we didn't put on the stat, but Goff probably ran over for 20 yards over the last 3 weeks. Boy.
He's an athlete.
But seriously, we saw as this offense got on track, Jared Goff, his mobility in the pocket hasn't looked much better. We can laugh at the 20 yards, but that's seriously something that we have not seen out of Jared Goff, and those resulted in sacks. Those resulted in Jared Goff getting hit and then fumbling the ball, creating turnovers. Jared Goff, he looks more confident in the pocket, and he's down the field. That throw to Laporta, that throw to J-Mo, that throw to Tim Patrick, where he's fuck it, Tim Patrick's down there somewhere. Oh, is that Emmanuel Warrior? And he just took the chance. He took the chance, and it paid off. And that's something that, especially last year, they didn't have those plays last year. For example, Josh Reynolds does not make that play that Tim Patrick did to open up the game. And that stole the momentum for the Lions offense because you're oh, that's Tim Patrick? They can't stop Tim Patrick? This is going to be a long day for Dallas. So Jared Goff goes in there. He tosses that around. And easy. Hey, who are you going to say? Quarterback wise, laughing at the Goff and Joe Burrow thing as far as MVP. Maybe Brock Purdy you could put in there too. But if they go into Minnesota, who right now is the hottest team in football, without Aidan Hutchinson, and Goff plays the way that he does, I'm not like Booner. I was not on the Goff MVP train. I'm not still that. I don't think that Jared Goff wins the MVP this year. But if he goes in there and does it, you can't deny that he has a case. But look, we thought Patrick Mahomes would be running away with it, but Hollywood Brown gets
this year might be more open than last year with the MVP race.
Isaiah Pacheco hurt. It's right now, in my opinion, if you had to pick one, it's Lamar. But if you watch Lamar week to week, it's great player, but that's not he struggles to make consistent, difficult NFL throws against good defenses. So when you see a quarterback that's doing that consistently, you can build the case because he's going to have way more passing production. Like, okay, because both of them have the run games. It'd be interesting to see coming down the stretch.
Yeah, and what Goff is doing right now is crazy because it's not like he's throwing for 300 yards on 27 completions. The past 2 weeks he's at 18 completions and throw for 300 yards. Like that, the efficiency is insane. And when it comes to winning MVP, I've said this before, the NFL loves storylines. And I think a Goff MVP is a great storyline for him. He might not be like the most exciting player in the world, obviously, but Detroit's America's team now, and Jared Goff comes to this team and leads them. And it's obviously going to depend like where we're at the end of the year. Like if we're the 1 seed in the NFC, ready to, make a Super Bowl push, I think there's a real chance Jared Goff is plus 200 in week 18 to win MVP.
Hey, my narrative and the setup that I said all offseason long was if you're on the best team in football and the best offense in football, and especially I think they played the 49ers in week 17. And if you're sitting there with 13 wins and you beat the 49ers with the chance to to get the number 1 seed, and on top of that, you have the numbers that you had last year, I think Jared Goff's going to end up with more passing yards than he did last year, which he was top 5. He's going to throw for 30 plus touchdowns still. He's right now, I know he started off fast with interceptions. I believe he could still finish with under 10. You have a big game in primetime versus the 49ers in week 17 with how open the MVP race is as of now. You put your flag in it and hey, I'm here. And that was my big the bold take that I used in the summer was I didn't go out and say he's going to win it, but it was I bet you, and my bold take was Jared Goff will be in Los Angeles for the NFL awards for the MVP conversation, and he will be a finalist. And it's just because you're on the best team in football. You guys remember the one thing that you guys said, well, what about the McCaffrey thing? Because, not always the quarterback on all these teams, but they had Purdy in there too. And it's the same thing here. It's you have Gibbs and you have Saint and you have J-Mo and you have these guys, but your quarterback, last year, Purdy was in that conversation as well. Your quarterback's always going to be in that conversation. And the way the NFL is playing out this year, the Lions are the best offense by a mile, and your quarterback is playing at a high level the last 3 weeks. I don't see him slowing down too. We've seen Goff go through bad stretches, and when he goes on a good stretch, it's like a 16-game good stretch. It's a long good stretch. From year 3 to year 4, that completion thing without an interception, that was from week 7, I think, or week 8 in 2023 or 2022, all the way into week 5 of 2023. That was a long stretch of football. So once he figures this thing out, he's going to end up I don't see him slowing down. He might have a game or two here and there, but you're not going to see a long stretch of football that he plays bad.
Yeah,
Happy birthday too, Jared Goff.
Yeah, well, that that is true. It's his birthday.
Just thought of it. I saw Easy put birthday boy.
Yeah, that is true. And Tom Brady even said it. He said, "I would love to be a quarterback at this offense." I mean, the way, and I mentioned this earlier, this Lions offense can beat you in so many different ways. They can run, they can play big boy football with David Montgomery. They can be more finesse with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. They got the offensive line to protect Jared. If they got to throw it, they can protect him. They have weapons everywhere. They have guys that can take the top off. Timmy P moving a little bit too. I mean, Timmy P out there moving a little bit. J-Mo obviously could take the top off. You have guys that could just eat up the middle of the field. They could do trick plays, fucking, lateral. Yeah, Panay Sewell. You got Taylor Decker, back shoulder fade in the end. I mean, this offense is the best offense in the National Football League. Now, the only question is, we look at big picture, is what are they getting out of this defense this week without Aidan? And we talked about the moves, but AG did a hell of a job on Sunday. So at least what they displayed on Sunday, even after Aidan Hutchin, that's a hell of a defense. So if they can keep that up, they got a Super Bowl roster here, boys. At least a Super Bowl offense for sure at this point, no doubt. You can't stop that offense.
The AG stuff. All right, can we address this? The AG stuff.
Yeah, you're about to slander Aaron Glenn, Booner. We're gonna have some issues.
No.
Okay,
there were people who because we did have the conversation about AG, and this was a situation last year to where, AG didn't have the best players last year, but there were definitely times to where, Klotz, I think me and you actually talked about it on a show last year when we were doing our little side hustle. Believe me later, as we talked about AG to where whether you have the players or not, you still have to find a way to adjust your scheme to still try and win football games and put the players in the best position possible. I called it out last year and said, hey, You're not getting to the quarterback. You need to get safeties in, corners, line. You need to get other players in there. You need to get pressure on the quarterback. And guess what AG started doing? Easy says, Booner, apologize. No, AG should be like, hey, I appreciate you, Boone. I appreciate you, Boone, for put out there. Maybe I should switch the scheme up a little bit. And he did it. And then look what happened. You went on that run. They started getting to the quarterback. Yeah, you had to take a sacrifice and give up some yards to some really good receivers, but we got to the quarterback, and it was bend, don't break. And I think right now what's happening with AG is he has the players now. In week 1, 2, 3, you started to see AG, all right, he's cooking a little bit. And then that Seahawks game, you saw the last year thing happen, and you're like, came back a little bit. AG, hey, it happened a little bit, AG. And then you saw here on Sunday, they made an absolute statement. And I respect AG. I love AG. That man made a statement. He's going to be a head coach. He will not be here next year, guys. AG will not be a Detroit Lion next year because he will be a head coach for another football team in the NFL. That man is elite at his job. He finds a way to get the job done. And what he did in Dallas yesterday was unbelievable. I respect the hell out of him for what he did this on Sunday. Not giving up a touchdown is so hard in the NFL, and he went out there and did it versus the Dallas Cowboys, who, guess what, guys? Their defense was missing a bunch of players, not their offense. And even though they're not a great offense this year, you still held them to 0 touchdowns, which is massive. I am very interested, honestly, to see what AG does, though, moving forward with no Hutch. Like, I think he has all of the weapons and all of the players behind the defensive line. He has the players in the interior defensive line. He still has Levi O. All right, now how are we going to adjust to this? Brian Branch, is he going to be blitzing a little? Amik, get to the quarterback. Who's going to be getting to the quarterback now? Hey, you know who? I know who. Trevor Nowaski is going to get to the quarterback.
That's you,
Saginaw Valley State alum, baby.
Hey,
he's going to get to the quarterback.
His PFF grade's probably number 1 in the league.
Let me see if I can look it up.
Trevor Nowaski PFF grade. I'm telling you, the Trevor Nowaski.
I mean, that's what's got it. Like players like Trevor Nowaski, you can't expect him to go out every week and have a sack. But somebody, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, Brandon Joseph,
Drum's
hurt though. An interception. Like you get what I'm saying. Like these smaller players that have a smaller role on the defense, more special teams players, they got to come in and make a difference now because Aidan Hutchinson's not there. You're not going to replace Aidan Hutchinson, but you got to moneyball the fuck out of replacing that impact because I mean. Think about how just when we talk about the pressures, like I'm not a huge pressure guy, but it does have an impact. He was like double of the next guy that was leading him in the NFL. I understand Nick Bosa like had the most 14, but still, like even after that, there was a significant gap. And I don't even know what he had in Dallas, but it's like, okay, now you just lost that. You have to find a way. And Aaron Glenn's the guy to do it. He's been doing it his whole career in Detroit. And I don't know. It makes me anxious. Like I trust Aaron Glenn. But ask any defensive coordinator to do that. Ask Steve Spagnuolo to keep that defense up if they lose Chris Jones. Like, you love Spags. You know that man's good. Yeah. But at some point, like, that defense they're going to miss Aidan Hutchinson. They're going to miss Chris Jones. Right. And I'm not saying Aaron Glenn is Spags, but I'm just using, like, any defensive coordinator losing that type of player, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, huge loss for Aaron Glenn. But I trust him to, scheme some pressures for this defense. I think 2 guys – someone who stepped up yesterday was Ali McNeil. I think he had 2 sacks. That's a guy that's going to really need to step up, getting pressure from the interior. And then I think we could see Anzo on a little more blitzes. He at one point last year, he led the team in sacks. And I think he's very capable of getting to the quarterback, from the linebacker position. But yeah, there's been ups and downs for me, at least with Aaron Glenn, but yesterday was unbelievable. Like Booner said, it's so hard to not give up a touchdown in an NFL game, especially a team like Dallas with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. Obviously, they're not as good as they were, but that's still a decent team. Yeah, Rico Dowdle too. I mean, what was his longest run of the day? 9 yards? Okay. Yeah. Rico Dowdle stinks, man. He stinks. I was so high on that guy. I have him in one of my fantasy leagues. I'm like, this is a fantasy winner. No, he sucks. He stinks.
He's right there with Zamir White for me.
Dude, I had Rico Dowdle and Zamir White on the same team.
That's tough.
It's brutal. It's brutal. It's brutal.
That's like drafting Isaiah Stewart and Killian Hayes in the same draft.
It's tough for you to say that, Klotz, because you were the one telling me about Zamir White and Rico Dowdle.
Yeah, well, hey, you might got the wrong guy.
Jennings too, Boone.
Hey, you got Jaron Jennings right. You're on Jaron.
Jeez, man.
Very fine player. But I guess when you look at a big picture, guys, and I saw this today floating around, it's kind of wild. The NFC North over the weekend, and you have to take into account the Vikings last week's game. The NFC North points scored for the NFC North 116, points given up 38. That's the NFC North from this past weekend in the Vikings last game. So the NFC North, best division in football. The Bears, they're improving. Caleb Williams, he could have 5 of them things. He could have 5. I think it was DJ fell on the 1-yard line, but whatever. I digress. Bears are improving. They have a good defense. The Vikings are They're undefeated, and then the Packers are now with healthy Jordan Love getting better. This division, boys. I mean, we thought it'd be like Packers, Lions, Vikings, and Bears, kind of in that mid tier, like 7-8 wins. Yeah, you might have more. You're gonna have a couple teams making the playoffs. It's tough. I'm not gonna lie, it's tough. That's why it makes the Aidan injury sting a little more. But tough division. But the Lions are in that thing, obviously. Very good division, though.
I have to go back. I bookmarked a tweet today, and it was like just looking at that, like the points differential. Where is it at? Did I might not have. I might have lied. I don't think I did. There was a stat. There was a stat that I saw today, and it was unbelievable. I wish I could find it. I'm so
they have the highest point differential in the league. The division does,
dude. Like, if you look at the division combined, and then look at the next combined, it's like 200, and then the next one's like 40 or like something, or like 30. It's insane. Like the NFC North, it's by far the toughest division with no question. You might end up, you're going to get 3 teams out of this division in the playoffs, I think. And I don't think it's like, yeah, you're going to beat each other up, but when these teams like the Lions playing outside of the division, the Packers playing outside of the division, now even you see the Bears, which is crazy, and the Vikings, like the NFC North is not losing games outside of the division. Like everyone's taking care of business. So then when you do get into the division, you start beating each other up, and you're just making sure you're taking care of business outside of it, you're going to see a lot of NFC North teams in the playoffs. And it makes it that much harder. And I think, honestly, one thing I love about this, boys, and you guys know me, hey, pressure makes diamonds. Go out there and play the best teams. We're playing the Bears twice. We're playing the Vikings twice. The Packers twice. The best teams in football. You get 2 times. I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid so many times for those 4 teams, or those how many games? 6 games. I cannot wait. And whether you drop the game or not, think about how much better you're going to get and what you're going to learn about your football team before the playoffs come, because you're basically playing 6 playoff games, essentially, just in your division. Like, that is very, very valuable.
Yeah, we talk about Jared Goff MVP. We play the Bears and the Packers both on primetime. If Jared Goff goes out and balls out against, because those are 2 good teams, really good teams in the division. If Jared Goff goes and balls out against those 2 teams in front of everyone, one on Thanksgiving, one on, I think we play the Packers on Thursday Night Football, that's going to help his MVP, chances even more. It hurts. It hurts that this division is so good. I didn't want the Vikings to be good. Obviously, that just sucks. But this might be a little bit of ignorance. And because I just hate them so much. I'm not look, they're a good team, but I'm not afraid of the Bears at all to be in contention for this division. I think the Vikings are legit. I do think they're good.
That's fair.
I think they're a really good coach team, or really well coached team, and I think the Packers are the Packers. They're really talented, young. They have Jordan Love, who's a good quarterback. But there's something about the Bears. The vibe. I know they just blew out the Jags. The Jags suck, but there's something about the Bears. The vibes, like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just don't think they're going to be in it. I don't think they're going to be.
Why do you go to me? Why do you go to me like I'm going to defend the Bears? I mean, fuck the Bears. I'm not.
Are you a Bears guy?
He's a Jags and a Bears guy. Now you're
He's a Bears guy. He loves the Bears. That's a Bears lover over there.
No. Let me give you the backstory, Caleb. So I picked Trevor Lawrence to win MVP last year, so I'm a big Trevor Lawrence guy. And then I was high on Caleb before the draft. So I always try to sprinkle a little bit of a
high is.
Oh, like
no,
like high of highs.
What were like the ceilings for Caleb Williams for you? What's your
MVP?
ceiling for him?
Not
MVP?
Patrick. Shut. Okay, hold on.
Not Patrick Mahomes, but if there's something close to Patrick Mahomes, it's Caleb
very
Williams.
good, like elite. Hey, elite.
Okay.
That's where I was at with Caleb Williams. So, but I like how Klotz goes to me like I'm gonna go at Caleb for going after the Bears. They have beaten bad
more
teams.
so the Jags. The Jags. Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know if I still am, but I was a Trevor Lawrence guy. I mean, he has all the intangibles to be a good NFL quarterback.
That man. And by the way, Trevor Lawrence is terrible. That man sucks.
No, he's not. He's not. No, number one, it's a Doug Peterson problem. That guy's the worst fucking.
Yeah.
Hey, Trevor Lawrence is it?
No,
dude. You saw last week against the Colts when they have a run game, like when Tank Bigsby had a good game. Trevor Lawrence looked good. I mean that he's not putting up like spectacular numbers, and he got hurt. What was his injury? I think he's still a little bit banged up. So when he gets fully healthy and Doug Peterson is out of the NFL,
Thomas butt naked down the sideline to keep them in the
hey,
game.
he's still young. He's learning. He's still a young quarterback.
Bro, you just got re-signed to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL.
Hey, it'll come once Doug Peterson. I'm telling you, once Doug Peterson is out of that organization, we'll see a whole new Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
a lot of comments going on here about T-Law, man.
By the Houston Texans, they're going to be getting thrown around by the Indianapolis Colts.
No, it's good. No, that's going to be a good division. You got some good quarterbacks in the division, and T-Law is one of them.
Yep. Hey, you stay with Anthony Richardson, Klotzy. That's your guy.
I'm not sticking with Anthony Richardson. I'm sticking with Shane Steichen. Let's make that very clear.
He's very good.
I'm not sticking with any team in the NFC or the AFC South.
I don't know why me and Klotzy.
Now you're asking how Will Levis is. You've escaped the Will Levis.
You've escaped.
By the way, Will Levis has gone on a stretch of football that has been probably some of the worst. Not bad, not like he did not play, but like the highlights. It's just like the bad highlights, like taking out like a ball boy and breaking his leg and like just falling and like crying on the bench. Like everything he does, his highlights, it's like, dude, this is tough. This is tough.
That's a whole other thing. All right, but hey, Boone, you want to give out your Kool-Aid jugs for what'd you see, Klotzy? What the hell you thought?
Alan Lazard almost just caught
a Hail Mary,
60-yard Hail Mary, and he just dropped. They're calling it a touchdown. They're calling him down.
No,
that was unbelievable.
Dude, he caught it.
Jets plus 1.5.
Boone, remember, I'm always 10 seconds ahead. He caught it.
Yeah, it looks like it looks like he caught it, and then after he came down, he dropped it.
Like they ripped it away.
Oh, that is huge.
Wow, that's big.
I do have Alan Lazard in my car.
25 yards. Check that off. That's good.
Insane.
Jeff, what did you end up doing? Because James Cook didn't play. I saw he was in there.
Yeah, I that one I sent earlier was botched. It was bad. It was terrible. It was absolutely awful. I had to get back in the lab. I had to get back in the gym. You know what I mean? Get better, improve. And I got a different parlay I got out. Garrett Wilson 4 catches. He has 6. Dalton Kincaid 3. He has 3 catches. Alan Lazard 25. He has 67. Aaron Rodgers 175. Josh Allen 175. I think they're both going to hit. And then Josh Allen 25 rushing yards. So I'm on my way.
It's going to come down to Josh Allen rushing.
It's going to come down to Josh Allen rushing yards. But
and he's going to go again. He could have got another rushing touchdown if he wanted to.
Not too bad. I gave Booner the Josh Allen anytime touchdown score. I told him it's going to happen.
Took it, yeah. I only did 2 bets tonight, and I took him. You know, typically I'm supposed to be the betting guy. I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to take a night off. Jeff said, hey, Boone, I got you. And he's out of the 2 of them, one's hit.
I got to get back. I got to get back in the live here, boys.
I have won all my. I at least have came out even tonight, so I'm happy. Thank you, Jeff.
I got you. Well, hold on. You know how these 1 legs. Remember, we got to wait. Let it cash, and then we'll react to it. Let's get to your Kool-Aid jugs. So
let's go, baby.
Hold on. Let me get some music on. We got to get some music on for the Kool-Aid jugs. I'm curious who you're rewarding today. You could probably give one to like every player on offense, but
anyone on the team.
Who you thinking today, Coach?
All right, do it up. Booner's Kool-Aid jugs week. What is it? Week 5, baby. Week 5 Kool-Aid jugs. Giving 3 of them out. I got the Kool-Aid out. Here's go. Why don't we do this? Kool-Aid jugs presented. It's sponsored by Real American Beer. Best beer on the planet.
Shout out.
Oh, he's mixing the Kool-Aid
with
the Real American Beer. Okay,
pull it up. Pull up the first one. First Kool-Aid jug of the week. It is Jared effing Goff, the man. Let's talk about an MVP conversation for once with this man, huh? He struggled for the first 2 weeks. Get it. Yeah, who cares? the last 3 weeks, just like I said earlier in the show, this man, if you take just this 3-week span and you put it out there, he's playing at an MVP level. He's on a 3-0 the last couple weeks. Yesterday, 18 for 25, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. On the last day in his 20s, this man went out there and took Jerry Jones on his birthday and threw him out of AT&T Stadium and Jerry World, and now he owns Jerry's World. It is now Jared Goff's world. Jared Goff owns AT&T Stadium. Now he owns the Dallas Cowboys. No one can say anything ever again about that man. He cut up Amani Warrior, Jordan Lewis, Trayvon Diggs. They can all go sit down, and they can be happy that they can say they all have one thing in common. Jared Goff dominated them. He dominated all of them, that whole defense. So Jared Goff, cheers, brother. Hold on, we'll go Kool-Aid.
Oh, he's doing it again. This guy's a demon. Hold on, and he's mixing that. Gee,
some real American beer. All right,
love the game, Boone.
Number two, very well deserved. I honestly, guys, there were so many different people I could have picked, so many different players. I think coaches, all of that. There was one man yesterday, and I kept saying it. In the non-weirdest way possible. I love this man. Don't clip that. That's a bad clip now that I think about it.
Hold on. Okay.
But we have the graphic
on the screen either.
Roll the graphic up. I love this man. David Montgomery, baby. This man has become my favorite Detroit Lions outside of Aidan Hutchinson. I have absolutely fallen for him. He is unbelievable.
Yeah, it got worse.
All right. I'm talking about football here. We're talking football. Oh, fellas, we're talking football. Hold on, I need a refresh.
Where you are, Boone.
I got to refresh there. David Montgomery, 12 carries, 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6.7 yards per carry. Guys, this is one of the best running backs in the NFL right now. The best. And if you want to sit here and tell me he's not, go get all of his best plays of the season and put them next to some other guys that you think are better than him. Because this man's highlight reel this season, what he's done, the angry runs, shout out Kyle Brandt, all of that, this man is unbelievable at what he does, his job. Jeff, you said he went out there, he lost weight, he had the interviews all throughout the offseason and said, hey, I need to slim down so I could be a little quicker, I could stay healthy, all of that. It has all worked. This man has been an elite level. He's out there putting up numbers, just sitting there with Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, him and Jahmyr Gibbs are playing at the same level. Both top 10 running backs in the NFL right now. Cheers. David Montgomery, you get the second Kool-Aid chug of the week.
You love him.
And I love that man, too. Cheers to Real American.
He said, I love this.
I do love that man. Dude, I don't know. There's just like,
He's falling for him.
I'm sorry. You got a problem with it? Talk to the higher ups.
We'll love you any way that you are, Booner. We love you for you.
I may love this man even more because he has been absolutely elite. This player, you could actually argue, is the best player at his position in the NFL right now. And he is an all-pro player. You could put the argument out there. He's missed a week. But when he is on the field, he is an absolute game changer. And the Detroit Lions and Aaron Glenn, they found a way to make sure that they don't have to take him off the field. It is the one, the only. Brian Branch gets the last Kool-Aid chug of the week, baby.
That's a specimen, Boone. That's a specimen.
I'm going to tell you what. Someone try and argue with me that he's not a top 3 safety in the NFL. When this man's on the football field, I don't care about stats. The stats, I'm sure, show it. But watch the film. All right? Watch the film. Open up your eyes. Watch the game film. This man is one of the best defensive players in the NFL. What is he, guys? Year 2? Only in year 2?
Yeah,
he's in year 2. He's in year 2.
Yep, year 2.
Guys, 6 tackles, 2 pass deflections, 1 quarterback hit, 2 interceptions, a forced fumble.
He's dialing a phone number, Boone.
I mean, what are we doing here? This is unbelievable. And then at the same time, I could get Kirby Joseph this every week as well. You literally, I said it on the stream yesterday. I was dead serious, and I tweeted it out because I'm like, I don't know I don't know. I need someone to help me out and find the facts. I think we might see a safety duel in one football team, both become an all-pro safety. I think you could see 2 safeties be all pro this year. With the if they play at this level for 17 weeks, I mean, what are we doing here? I'm
You're like
burping
joking.
because
They feel
I'm
like you're
burping because of the Kool-Aid.
what are we doing here?
little behind the scenes with the Kool-Aid. I've said it before. When I chug the Kool-Aid, dude, it's like I waterboard myself. And I like after there are videos on my phone of after the Kool-Aid. And Klotz, you've seen it. Like last year, dude, I would puke the Kool-Aid
The
up.
funniest part of the
Waterboard
video that
myself.
no one ever sees is before and after the Kool-Aid videos.
It's
It's
before
like
I
you-
lock in, it's like I become crazy. Like I have to like Klotz probably has seen it a million times. I like get
Serial
demented.
killer, bro. Yeah, bro. You, like,
It's really weird. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. Brian Bridge, final Kool-Aid chug of the week, man. He is best safety in the NFL. Quote me on it, please. Put it on a quote card.
He said, "Put it on a quote card."
Real American Beer. Segment presented by Real American Beer. Here we go.
There you go. Good stuff, Boone. Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to add. I mean, those are very respectable Kool-Aid jugs you're giving out there. For people in the chat, put your yeah, Booner, take a second. Here he is. He's back. Put your questions in the chat. We'll try to get to
A whole new person.
as many as we can here. Good stuff, Boone. Good stuff. I don't really have anyone to add. Is there anyone else you thought about
I had
adding?
some honorable mentions. I meant to do this. I wanted to do AG. I really wanted to do AG because of the defense as a whole. And then JMO. It was AG and JMO were my two honorable mentions. Those are the two that I forgot. I actually wrote it down to say. So I'm glad you asked. If anyone else, sorry, fellas.
What about this one? We should have waterboarded Klotzy to see who paid him off for his top 10 Colts take. I mean,
wait on it. Wait on it. They'll emerge.
Be
That team's
patient.
not vulnerable. Yo,
He said
Flacco.
he's better than Anthony Richardson, I think. I mean, it's
without a doubt.
I'm just saying. All right.
Williams right now too.
Okay, well, let's relax. The next Ball Don't Lie asks, first question here. Mailbag, who is the MVP through 6 weeks, in your guys' opinion?
I would go Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's a shit show right now. I mean, if the team didn't suck, it's probably Burrow numbers wise. But yeah, I'd probably go Josh Allen as well, or Brock Purdy's in the conversation. Jared Goff is also in the conversation. It's a toss up right now.
Talk to
There's
me.
no favorite.
Yeah, I think it's almost worse.
Allen or Lamar.
It's almost worse than last year. I think Josh Allen, like if Josh Allen, if he didn't have just bad first halves of football, because like the last 2 weeks when they lost, it was just the first half he was just terrible. Like he could not figure it out. If he just played full games and even if they lost, he would be by far the MVP right now. But like if say tonight he goes out there and finds a way to win this game and he has the numbers that he does, yeah, he's probably after this.
What if
week,
they lose though, Boone? What are you doing if they lose?
I you know what? No, I gave you guys all a caveat. Like I did say when they were 3-0, I said they could easily end up 3-3 because like they have literally the hardest record or schedule in the NFL.
But do you still think they? Because I think we all imagined they'd be beating the Jets. Even like going into tonight, I was like, you know what? They just took a tough loss. The Texans.
Disagree.
Disagree. I'm asking.
NFL teams after they fire a head coach always are at their best. So that's the problem. Like I would have hoped that Robert Saleh got fired after the Bills game. When I heard that they got fired, and I was like, oh no, they play the Bills next week. I'm like, no, the Bills are gonna be 3-3. Like this is a problem. Titans next week though, so you go up to 4-3.
Oh, you got it's the Will Levis versus Josh Allen. Your narratives collide, Boone.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Narratives
That's
collide.
tough, man.
That was me in London. Tough one over the weekend. Yeah, by the way, you know who I think is a little bit of a sleeper too? He's kind of creeping. He's not there, but he's creeping. CJ Stroud. I think if the Texans continue to win, he starts putting up numbers. No Nico Collins. I think you can have a case for CJ moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's just so wide open right now, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. It's wide open.
I mean, last week people were talking about Jaden Daniels MVP on national television.
I was gonna say, why is that not possible? He's balling out right now.
They don't
on a good team.
They don't want that to be the case because I was Jaden Daniels. I said Jaden's better than Caleb Williams, so they didn't want that to be the case.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a Jaden Daniels guy too. I'm a Jaden Daniels guy.
Don't throw me in the middle of this.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, the guy to the left of me or right, whatever way you guys are watching.
Yeah.
I mean, that team. I don't know. Do you guys think they're legitimate? Do you think they're legitimate? They are a legitimate team in the NFC. The Commanders.
I mean, I think they're going. I think they're going to win the NFC East, but I don't see them as like a contender to like threat. Like if the Lions and Commanders played right now, the Lions would abuse them, if that makes sense. But if you take if the Lions were to go and play the Commanders week 15 after they play the Packers and they win and they kind of go sleepwalking compared to what they normally did, they get chewed up. But I mean, the Commanders can beat anybody. They match up well defensively. Like they can put pressure on the quarterback. But I think just Jaden Daniels being a rookie, like he can only do so much. There's never been a quarterback. Like I know Brock Purdy was like insane to see, but that's because of the supporting cast. They don't have that in Washington right now.
Honestly, I think it's a situation like CJ Stroud last year to where I think Jaden, I thought Jaden was the best quarterback coming out of the class over Caleb. And I think he could do not maybe what CJ did because CJ was so historic, but he can go out there and put up big numbers. I just think there is, like Klotz said, like how CJ Stroud gets to the playoffs and then loses. Like, there is that part to where you do have to have a full, like very, very good team around you. And on top of that, I think a very underrated part of winning in the playoffs in the NFL is experience. Like you have to sometimes just go through stuff. And like CJ, like they had a good team last year. It wasn't this year's, but they just didn't have that full experience. Still young. It's the same thing with the Commanders. Dan Quinn's a great coach. We got to see him in Indy at the Combine, and he's a great coach. I love Dan Quinn. But you got to build that team up a little more to be a Super Bowl contender and an NFC contender.
Yeah, he's Dan Quinn. We saw a lot of those coaches. Dan Quinn,
big dude, man.
Person, yeah, big fella. I was like, it's like Dan Campbell's like cousin or something like that.
Walk by him, gives you the shoulder, and you're like, I get thrown down. What is this kid doing here? He's
a big ass dude for sure. He's a hell of a coach. I mean, what they're doing over there in Washington. I mean, they sold last year, and they're good.
I would love to go back and just get some clips of me talking about Washington and their defense, how they brought, like Dan Quinn brought guys over from Dallas, essentially. Like they signed guys from Dallas and they went and just grabbed random pieces. I remember having these conversations, and now like they're playing. It's like, dude, like
don't you dare call Jeremy Chin random. You understand?
No, they legit. Like I'm talking about the whole defense. I remember we had the conversations because there were guys that they grabbed that we wanted the Lions to sign, and Dan Quinn basically was like, "Hey, Dallas doesn't want to pay you. Hey, come over here. Come build something in Washington with me." And
I'll even say this. Speaking of I'll just because I don't mind doing this. Emmanuel Forbes, that was my guy coming out. He's cooked. I think he's sitting out multiple games. That's another one. Hey, we all get some things wrong. I like it.
For sure.
I wanted the Lions to take Emmanuel Forbes. Like, what was it, 2 years ago? Yeah, he's even with Dan Quinn, he's been basically a bust at this point. Michael asked Mailbag power rankings. The Lions without Hutch tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. We're not saying nothing today.
I expect something out of all of you.
I want to see Caleb's too. You gotta have Caleb. I'm interested to see what Caleb's like. And so we're all clear, just because there was confusion, and I think we're all kind of on the same basis with it now. It's what they are right now, not projecting into the future.
No,
that's what I've done. I've done that all year.
Yep.
Looking at Klotz.
I don't want Caleb to have the same experience I have.
The thing with you, Klotz, is, and I love you so much, we've gone back and forth. The thing with you is like, no, it's just like some of the teams you're like, in the future they're going to be good, and then the other teams you're like, well, right now they're this. I'm like, okay, like, why not get a little consistent around here, huh?
The one that got me caught up, and I will admit it's just because I still can't stand him, is the Saints. Like the first couple weeks, like. People are like, you have to put that. I'm like, I am not putting the New Orleans Saints in my top 10 list. Dennis Allen coach team with Derek Carr will never be allowed in my top 10. So I'm just making my list. I was like, we're going at it.
When New England won week 1, I saw them in a couple top 10s. I'm like, this is what are we doing here?
Yeah,
it was probably Pete Prisco. That's like my arch enemy. I hate that guy. So I literally last year every single week. Pete Prisco had his own segment on my show, and I just ripped this guy to shreds. If I ever met him, I hate Pete Prisco. Worst, I don't want to say human, but it's up there.
Not Pete Prisco. He just caught a lot of strays.
He's so bad. Dude, he had the Packers higher than the Lions all year last year. It was insane. It was so disrespectful.
Maybe we should get Pete Prisco on.
No, I won't show up.
That's like my Mike Florio. Like that's how like Booner is Pete Prisco, me Mike Florio.
You're Your Mike Florio impression's goated, though. I mean, it is absolutely goated. Every time
he gets so mad hearing about the Lions too. Like,
Yeah,
like Chris Sims starts talking to him. Yeah, I've been saying it. Like they gotta find a way, and they keep finding a way. Like
yeah. And then I heard him.
His crash out on Twitter was like all-time comedy to me. I don't understand why people don't think PFT is credible. I just don't get it. He's like just going on his rant about how long he's been in the industry. I'm like, dude, not a soul cares.
Yeah, he was. They had him on TV doing the reporting for the Hutch injury, and I just every time I hear him speak now, I just think of when you do his impression. I'm like, dude, I can't listen to him anymore. Not
Yeah,
that I
dude,
ever did,
they're like on the NBC or something, like a massive network for
yeah, Mike Florio. Yeah,
I don't.
It's insane. I was like, there's
Family
no way I'm
Connection or
seeing this right.
something.
It's
Chris
Oh,
Sims,
yeah.
I get.
Yeah, he
And
might
so-
be.
and by the way, 2 weeks, Jeff.
Yep.
Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I know. I got it circled already. Don't worry.
He's got it on his calendar.
Sure you do.
Is
I'm
it in
sure you
Chicago or in Washington?
No excuses, too. There can be no excuses. Well, offensive line, this. No
Same goes to
excuses.
you, bro.
Hey,
What's
Same goes to you.
what's that saying I called you earlier? We were having a debate in our group chat earlier, and Jeff just ended it with ALR. All right. And I called him instantly and I said, hey, what's that saying that these kids say nowadays? What is it, Jeff? Go ahead. Tell the people. What is it?
He said belt to ass.
Yeah, that's what it is in 2 weeks, brother. That's what it is in 2 weeks.
Hey, all I'm saying is that, guys lose games. I'm not going to sweat it
Oh,
too
no,
much.
you're already starting it.
He's
You're-
already
What a loser.
I have confidence.
Loser mentality. What a
No,
loser.
no,
over
no.
there.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it, dude. I can't wait. It's
Boone,
gonna be
you won. Boone,
What
you've
a-
already won, I think.
Oh, yeah, look at
Hell
this
no.
guy. What a
Hell
loser,
no.
man.
Hell no. You think he thinks he's going to do what he's doing on that
See,
defense?
this is what you needed to respond with the first time.
Mm-mm.
It's
Nope.
too late. Too little,
Nope.
too late. And Chris Paul hits a huge three. Cuts the lead to 40.
Yeah. Yeah, cut. All right. We'll catch you guys. Appreciate you so much. Appreciate Doc,
Fun show.
Jesse Morse joining the show as well. Appreciate all you for joining. We got a lot of people in
Who
here.
do
And
we
shout
have
out
tomorrow?
tomorrow we got Scott Bischoff joining the program. So
All right, let's go.
Scott Bischoff, we haven't talked to him since the draft, so he'll be here. And then Wednesday's the doc. So we got a packed week. Appreciate Caleb coming through, man. I hit up Caleb. I was like, hey, bro, you want to join? He's like, I'm down. I'm like, dude,
Let's go.
last minute dude popping in. We should have had him on earlier. Honestly, that's not me. I should have got you in earlier, Caleb. But appreciate
Yeah,
you
it
joining.
is on you.
Appreciate you
Hey,
joining.
top 10 tomorrow, Caleb. Go with the
Sounds
rock
good.
in.
Sounds
Yeah,
good. I'll be ready. I'll be
Send
ready.
me that top 10. We'll cook up a grab. We'll show. We'll see
Throwing
what
him
you
into
got.
the fire.
To be fair,
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Klotz had the 0-3 Bengals 10. I'm just saying.
I did.
I'm just saying.
Hey, big win for them yesterday against the New York
Big win,
Football
though.
Giants.
Hey,
They might
this
be back. They might be
They've
back.
won 2 of their last 3 since Klotz
They might
done
be
that.
back, Klotzy. They might be
Hey,
back.
they got
back.
the Browns. They're about to be a 500 ball club.
Woo!
Not close. They'll be 3 and 4. They're
Oh, yeah,
still
3
2
and
and 4.
They're
Hey,
getting
but think about it. They're
That's how
Mike
Klotzy messes up his top 10. The man doesn't know the records. He has no clue.
I use my eyes. It's an eye test. But Boone, they're a Mike Gesicki toe and an Evan McPherson kick away
Oh,
from being
when I
4-2.
say that to you about the Ravens, you're like, they're still 8.
Yeah.
They're still 8.
That doesn't fit my narrative, though. Doesn't fit.
Full
Doesn't
ga-
fit.
these
All right.
bots, man.
Yeah, these bots are bad. All right. Appreciate you guys. See you tomorrow. Take
I
care
love
out
you
there.
guys.
Go Lions. See you.